The wedding dress cost more than Ethan Rowe earned in 6 months. His hands trembled as he fastened the final pearl button along Lena Hart's spine, each one a countdown to the moment he'd destroy everything she believed in. Outside, 300 guests waited. The string quartet had started its third prelude, and upstairs in the groom's suite, Ethan knew with sick certainty no one was getting dressed. Marcus Holloway wasn't coming. Worse, he'd never intended to. The evidence sat in Ethan's jacket pocket like a loaded gun. In 60 seconds, he'd have to pull the trigger and watch his boss's world explode. Before we continue, if you're watching from New York, Tokyo, Lagos, or anywhere in between, drop your city in the comments below. Let's see how far this story travels. And if you want to know how Ethan's choice changes everything, hit that like button and stay until the end. The Ashford estate looked like something from a magazine spread, all manicured gardens and champagne-colored stone, the kind of venue that required a year-long waiting list and a deposit that could fund a semester of college. Ethan had coordinated every detail over the past 8 months, from the imported Italian roses to the handwritten place cards. Each task performed with the quiet efficiency that had defined his 4 years as Lena Hart's executive assistant. He'd never imagined he'd be the one to burn it all down. "Ethan?" Lena's voice cut through his spiraling thoughts. She was watching him in the full-length mirror, her dark eyes sharp despite the soft, romantic styling of her hair. "You've been staring at that button for 30 seconds. His fingers jerked, completing the closure. The dress fit her perfectly. Of course it did. Lena Hart didn't do anything halfway. At 34, she'd built TechVise Solutions from a garage startup into a company valued at $200 million. She approached her wedding with the same methodical precision she brought to product launches and investor meetings, which made what Ethan had to say even more devastating. "There." He stepped back, forcing his voice steady. "All set." Lena turned, the dress catching the morning light streaming through the bridal suite's windows. She looked beautiful. She also looked like someone about to make the biggest mistake of her life. "You're a terrible liar," she said quietly. Ethan's throat constricted. "I don't know what You've been avoiding eye contact for 3 days. You've reorganized my schedule twice when it didn't need changing. And yesterday, when Marcus called, you practically threw the phone at me." Lena crossed her arms, a gesture that looked oddly defiant in the elaborate gown. "So whatever you're holding back, say it now. We have 20 minutes before I'm supposed to walk down that aisle." The evidence felt like it was burning through his jacket. 3 days ago, a routine email check, something Ethan did as part of his job, had revealed a thread Marcus had accidentally copied him on, a thread between Marcus and someone named Jennifer Holloway. The exchange was brief, businesslike, discussing property transfers and insurance policies. It took Ethan 6 hours of digging to confirm what his gut had immediately known. Jennifer Holloway wasn't Marcus's sister, as he'd claimed during the one awkward holiday dinner where she'd been mentioned. She was his wife, had been for 7 years. "Ethan." Lena's voice had dropped into the tone she used in board meetings when someone was wasting her time. "Whatever it is, he's not coming." The words landed like stones in still water. Lena went completely motionless, her expression unreadable. "Marcus isn't coming," Ethan continued, the words tumbling out now that he'd started. "And he was never going to. This entire thing, the engagement, the wedding, all of it, it's a setup." "That's a serious accusation." Lena's voice was carefully neutral, but something flickered in her eyes. Not surprise. Something else. "What proof do you have?" Ethan pulled out his phone, hands unsteady as he opened the folder he'd compiled. 3 days ago, you asked me to sync your calendar with Marcus's for the honeymoon. When I logged into his email, using the credentials he gave you, I found correspondence with a woman named Jennifer, his wife. He watched Lena's face as he spoke, but she remained eerily calm. "They've been married for 7 years. She lives in Portland, and over the past 6 months, Marcus has been systematically positioning himself to access your company's assets. The prenup he insisted on? It has a clause buried in the annexes that would give him proxy voting rights on your shares if you were incapacitated or unavailable for duty. I had a lawyer friend review it. It's essentially a hostile takeover hidden in marriage paperwork." Ethan pulled up a photo, Marcus and Jennifer at what looked like a wine tasting event, his arm around her waist, both of them smiling. The timestamp was from 2 months ago, right after he'd proposed to Lena. There's more, Ethan said quietly. Financial records showing he's in debt. Business ventures that failed. He was counting on this marriage to solve his problems. You weren't his future, Lena. You were his exit strategy. The silence stretched. Downstairs, Ethan could hear the muffled sounds of guests arriving, the gentle chaos of an event about to begin. Someone laughed. Someone else called for more champagne. How long have you known? Lena asked finally. 3 days? And you waited until now to tell me? The question hit like an accusation. Ethan had asked himself the same thing approximately 6,000 times. Why hadn't he told her immediately? Why had he spent 72 hours in agonizing indecision, watching Lena finalize seating charts and approve the final cake design, all while knowing what was coming? I tried, he said, hating how weak it sounded. I came to your office twice. I showed up at your apartment. But every time I got close to telling you, He broke off, unable to finish. You what? I didn't want to be the one to hurt you. It was the truth, but not all of it. The complete truth was more complicated, more dangerous. The truth was that Ethan had spent 4 years watching Lena Hart build her empire, had seen her weather hostile investors and market crashes and competitors who underestimated her because of her age and gender. He'd watched her win, again and again, through sheer force of intelligence and will, and somewhere in those 4 years, watching had turned into something else. Something Ethan had carefully buried beneath professional boundaries, and the practical reality that Lena Hart was his boss, his daughter's financial stability, and completely out of his league in every measurable way. Or, Lena said, her voice taking on a dangerous edge, you didn't want me to marry him. Ethan's breath caught. That's not, isn't it? She took a step toward him, the dress rustling. 4 years, Ethan. 4 years you've been the perfect assistant, anticipating my needs, managing my chaos, somehow always knowing exactly what I require before I ask for it. You've met every boyfriend, vetted every date, and never once offered a personal opinion about any of them. Because it wasn't my place. Until now. Lena's eyes were blazing. Until the morning of my wedding, when suddenly you have proof that my fiancé is a fraud. Convenient timing. The accusation stung worse because part of him wondered if she was right. Had he subconsciously delayed? Had some part of him wanted to wait until the last possible moment, when calling off the wedding would create maximum chaos, would require Lena to lean on him? I have a 6-year-old daughter, Ethan said, his voice rough. This job, working for you, it's how I pay for her school, her health care, everything. Do you really think I'd risk that on some romantic delusion? Something in Lena's expression shifted. Mia, I forgot about... She stopped herself, then asked more quietly, where is she today? With my sister. She thinks she's coming to watch me work at a fancy party. Ethan's jaw tightened. I didn't tell her it was a wedding. I didn't want her to get ideas about fairy tales. The admission hung between them. Ethan had been 19 when Mia was born, still in community college, completely unprepared for fatherhood. Her mother had left when Mia was 8 months old, leaving nothing but a note and an empty closet. For 6 years, it had been just the two of them against the world. Show me everything, Lena said abruptly. Ethan handed over his phone. Lena scrolled through the evidence in silence, the emails, the financial records, the photos of Marcus with Jennifer. Her expression remained neutral, but Ethan knew her tells. The slight tension in her shoulders, the way she touched her collarbone when processing information she didn't want to believe. The lawyer you consulted, she said finally, was it David Chen? Ethan blinked. How did you... Because I consulted him too, 3 weeks ago. Lena looked up and her smile was sharp enough to cut glass. About the exact same prenup clause. The world tilted. You knew? Not everything. Not about Jennifer. Lena's smile faded. But I knew something was wrong. Marcus had been too eager about the prenup, too insistent on specific clauses. So I had it reviewed. When David flagged the proxy voting issue, I started digging. She moved to the window, looking out over the gardens where guests were taking their seats. I found the financial problems first. The failed businesses, the debt. Then I hired a private investigator. He confirmed Marcus had been lying about his employment history, his education credentials, even his family background. Then why? Ethan gestured helplessly at the dress, the venue, the whole elaborate setup. Why go through with this? Because I needed to see how far he'd take it. Lena's reflection in the window was cold, calculating. I needed documented evidence of fraud, not just financial irregularities. I needed him to commit fully to the deception. So this whole wedding is a trap. Lena turned back to face him. The prenup he signed? I had my legal team draft a revised version. Every clause he tried to sneak in has been neutralized. The company assets he thought he'd access already transferred to a trust he has no claim to. And as for the wedding itself, she checked her watch. In about 15 minutes, Marcus is going to discover that his hotel room has been locked and his credit cards frozen. Shortly after that, he's going to make a very desperate phone call. Ethan stared at her. This was the Lena he knew, the strategist who thought 10 moves ahead, who turned apparent defeats into victories. But something about it felt wrong. If you knew all this, he said slowly, why didn't you just call it off? Why put yourself through this elaborate performance? Because I needed to be sure. Lena's voice dropped. I needed to put on this dress, stand in this room, and feel nothing. No regret. No what ifs. I needed to face the fantasy of what this was supposed to be before I could let it go. And? Ethan asked quietly. What do you feel? Before Lena could answer, her phone buzzed. She glanced at it, and her expression hardened. Right on schedule. Marcus just tried to access his room and found it locked. Another buzz. And there's the angry text. She showed Ethan the screen. The message was brief. What the hell, Lena? My room is locked and my cards aren't working. Fix this now. Watch this, Lena said. She didn't respond to the text. Instead, she pulled up a different screen, security camera footage from the hotel's parking lot. On the grainy video, Ethan could see Marcus pacing beside his car, phone pressed to his ear, visibly agitated. Who's he calling? Ethan asked. Jennifer, his wife. Lena's smile was grim. My investigator confirmed they've been in contact all morning. She's supposed to be his backup plan. If the wedding falls through, she'll help him disappear with whatever he's already managed to access. Which is? Nothing of value, but he doesn't know that yet. Lena zoomed in on the footage. Marcus was gesturing wildly now, his conversation clearly heated. I've been feeding him false information for weeks. Bank accounts that appear full but are actually empty. Business contacts who don't exist. He thinks he's been slowly siphoning resources, but he's been stealing from ghost accounts the whole time. Ethan felt a surge of admiration mixed with unease. You've been planning this for weeks. I've been planning this since the moment I realized something was wrong. Lena set her phone down. The question I couldn't answer was whether I was doing it to protect my company or to avoid admitting I'd made a mistake about Marcus. And now? Now I know. She touched the dress, her fingers trailing over the intricate beadwork. This dress? This venue? These flowers? I thought I wanted them because they represented something real. But standing here, about to marry someone who saw me as a transaction, she looked at Ethan. I never wanted this. I wanted what I thought this represented. Safety, partnership. Someone who understood the pressure of building something from nothing. You have people who understand that, Ethan said quietly. Your team, your investors, you. The word hung in the air between them. Ethan's heart was hammering so hard he was certain Lena could hear it. You've been there for every product launch, Lena continued, her voice steady. Every investor meeting, every late night when the code wouldn't work or the funding was falling through. You've seen me at my worst, stressed, impossible, unreasonable, and you never flinched. You just handled it, made it manageable, made me feel like I wasn't fighting alone. That's my job, Ethan managed. Is it? Lena took a step closer. Is it your job to remember that I hate roses because they remind me of funerals, so you always order peonies for important events? Is it your job to keep emergency chocolate in your desk because you noticed I get migraines when I skip meals? Is it your job to learn my daughter's favorite books so you can suggest new ones when I visit Mia at your sister's? Ethan's breath caught. He hadn't realized Lena noticed those things, had thought he'd been subtle. "I noticed everything," Lena said softly, as if reading his mind. "For 4 years I noticed, but I told myself it was professional, that you were just exceptionally good at your job, because acknowledging anything else would have been complicated." "Complicated," Ethan repeated, testing the word. "You work for me. I depend on you, and you have a daughter who depends on your salary." Lena's expression turned frustrated. "It would have been irresponsible to risk our working relationship on something as uncertain as whatever this is. So you settled for Marcus instead." "I settled for safe." Lena's laugh was bitter. "Except he wasn't safe. He was just better at hiding his agenda." Ethan's phone buzzed. He glanced at it. A text from his sister with a photo of Mia in her flower girl dress, grinning at the camera. The sight of his daughter's smile sent a spike of guilt through him. What was he doing, standing in a bridal suite having this conversation? Mia's entire life depended on his job security, and here he was, edging toward a confession that could destroy everything. "You should answer that," Lena said, noticing his hesitation. "It's just my sister. Mia's ready for what she thinks is a party." Ethan pocketed the phone. "Lena, I should go. You have a wedding to call off, and I should stay." The single word stopped him. "Please," Lena added softer. I need someone here who's on my side. Not my lawyer, not my investigators, not my well-meaning friends who are about to watch me fall apart. I need someone who knows me, the real me." Before Ethan could respond, there was a sharp knock on the door. "Miss Hart?" A man's voice, unfamiliar. "I'm Special Investigator Paul Rodriguez. Your attorney sent me. We have a situation developing." Lena exchanged a glance with Ethan, then called, "Come in." The door opened to reveal a man in his 40s, professionally dressed, carrying a tablet. Behind him was David Chen, the lawyer Ethan had consulted. "Lena," David said, his expression grim. "Marcus just made a move we weren't anticipating." "Show me," Lena said, instantly focused. Rodriguez pulled up footage on his tablet, more security camera material, but this time from inside the hotel. Ethan watched as Marcus, looking considerably more disheveled than usual, cornered one of the hotel staff members. The video had no audio, but the conversation was clearly intense. "He's trying to get to you," Rodriguez explained. "He convinced the concierge that there's been a misunderstanding, that he needs to speak with you urgently before the ceremony. When that didn't work, he attempted to bribe her." "Did she take it?" Lena asked. "No. She's one of ours. We placed her there specifically to monitor his movements." Rodriguez swiped to a different camera angle. "But he's persistent. 5 minutes ago, he entered the venue's east wing. He's currently trying to navigate to the bridal suite." "How long until he gets here?" Ethan asked. 10 minutes, maybe less. He's got the building layout from the wedding planning." Rodriguez looked at Lena. "We can intercept him, but given the number of guests in the building, it might cause a scene. Alternatively, let him come," Lena said. Everyone turned to stare at her. "Let him come," she repeated, her voice calm. "I want to hear what he has to say. What excuse he's planned, what lies he thinks will work. I want to look him in the eye and know exactly who I almost married." "Lena," David said carefully, "I'm not sure that's wise. If he becomes volatile, then you'll be here to document it." Lena gestured to the camera Rodriguez was holding. "Everything he says, every move he makes, more evidence for the fraud case." Rodriguez and David exchanged uncertain glances. Ethan could see their point. Confronting Marcus directly carried risks, but he also understood what Lena was doing. She needed this. Needed to face the betrayal head-on instead of handling it through lawyers and investigators. "I'll stay with her," Ethan heard himself say. "If things escalate, I'll get her out." Lena shot him a grateful look. David sighed, clearly recognizing a losing battle. "Fine," the lawyer said. "But we're setting up in the adjoining room with audio surveillance. Any hint of threat, we're coming through that door." Rodriguez was already moving, placing discrete audio devices around the suite. David pulled out his own tablet, setting up what looked like a live recording system. 5 minutes, Rodriguez said. "He's on this floor now." Lena smoothed her dress, and Ethan saw her hands shake just slightly before she controlled them. For all her strategic planning, this was still the moment where her wedding, her dream, however misguided, officially died. You don't have to do this, Ethan said quietly, as David and Rodriguez slipped into the adjacent room, leaving them alone. You could have them escort him out, press charges from a distance. You don't owe him a confrontation. I know. Lena met his eyes. But I owe myself the truth. All of it. No more pretending, no more strategic avoidance. I need to hear him say it. Footsteps in the hallway, getting closer. Ethan, Lena said quickly, whatever happens in the next few minutes, whatever I say or do, I need you to promise me something. Anything. Promise me you won't quit, no matter how ugly this gets, no matter what comes out about why you waited to tell me. Her voice dropped. I can survive losing Marcus. I'm not sure I can survive losing you. The words hit Ethan like a physical force. Before he could process them, before he could respond, the door burst open. Marcus Holloway looked like a man coming apart at the seams. His usually perfect hair was disheveled, his shirt partially untucked, a thin sheen of sweat visible on his forehead. But his smile, when he saw Lena in her wedding dress, was almost convincing. There you are, he said, his voice warm with manufactured relief. Baby, thank God. There's been some kind of mix-up with my room and my cards, and I couldn't find my phone. His gaze shifted to Ethan, and something cold flickered in his eyes. What's he doing here? Ethan works for me, Lena said calmly. He's been helping me prepare for the wedding. You remember? The wedding that's supposed to start in 10 minutes. Right. Yes, of course. Marcus moved toward her, hands outstretched. Which is why we need to fix the situation quickly. I need to get changed, and you're already dressed, Lena observed. Marcus was wearing his tuxedo, though it looked hastily thrown on. I got dressed at a friend's room, Marcus said smoothly. After mine got locked. Lena, seriously, what's going on? Is this some kind of cold feet thing? Because if you're having doubts, we should talk about them, not play games with hotel rooms and credit cards. Games, Lena repeated. That's an interesting word choice. Marcus's smile wavered. What? Games require players, Marcus. People taking different roles, following different rules, pursuing different objectives. Lena's voice was conversational, almost friendly. Tell me, in our relationship, what role have you been playing? I don't understand what you're... The devoted fiancé? The supportive partner? The man who just wants to build a life with me? Lena tilted her head. Or were you playing something else entirely? Marcus glanced at Ethan again, his expression hardening. Did he tell you something? Because I've noticed he's been acting strange lately, and if he's been filling your head with... He showed me some interesting emails, Lena cut in. Between you and Jennifer. The color drained from Marcus's face. Jennifer Holloway, Lena continued. Your wife. Should I have David bring her in? She's downstairs in the venue. I invited her. That's... I can explain, Marcus started. I'm sure you can. You're good at explaining things. Good at making lies sound like truth. Lena's voice remained steady, but Ethan could see the tension in her shoulders. So explain. Explain how you were planning to marry me while already married to someone else. Explain the prenup clauses designed to give you access to my company. Explain why a man who claimed to love me has been systematically planning to steal everything I built. Marcus was backing toward the door now, his performance crumbling. You don't understand the full picture. Then enlighten me. Lena took a step forward, and despite the wedding dress, she looked like a predator closing in on prey. Tell me the full picture, Marcus. Tell me how this was supposed to end. I needed... Marcus stopped himself, seeming to realize how that sounded. Look, I made some mistakes. Business mistakes. I was in debt, and I thought we could help each other. Your company needed someone with connections, with experience. My company needed nothing you could provide, Lena said flatly. You have no real connections. Your experience is a series of failed ventures and burned bridges. What my company had was value. Value you wanted to extract. It wasn't like that, Marcus protested, but his voice lacked conviction. Then what was it like? When Marcus didn't answer, Lena continued. Let me tell you what I think. I think you saw a young female CEO, successful but unmarried, and assumed she'd be desperate enough for companionship to overlook red flags. I think you researched me carefully, figured out what I wanted to hear, and became exactly that person. I cared about you, Marcus said, and for just a moment he sounded sincere. It wasn't all fake. Which part was real? Lena asked. The part where you proposed? The part where you planned our honeymoon? Or the part where you set up shell companies to funnel my assets into? Marcus's jaw clenched. You can't prove any of that. Actually, David Chen said, stepping out of the adjoining room with Rodriguez behind him, we can prove all of it. Good afternoon, Mr. Holloway. I'm Mrs. Hart's attorney, and we've been documenting this conversation. Between David and Lena, his expression shifting from denial to anger. You set me up, this whole thing, the locked room, the cards. You were testing me. No, Lena said quietly. I was giving you a chance to tell the truth. You failed. Ms. Hart. Rodriguez stepped forward, pulling out credentials. I'm a private investigator working with the district attorney's office. We have warrants for your financial records, Mr. Holloway, as well as questions about your marriage license situation. This is harassment, Marcus snapped. You can't just... We can, and we did. Lena's voice was ice. Every document you signed, every email you sent, every lie you told, it's all documented. You thought you were playing me, but you were building your own case. Marcus's rage finally broke through his careful facade. You think you're so smart? You think you've won? He laughed, the sound harsh and bitter. You're alone, Lena. You've always been alone. You hide behind your company and your success because you're terrified no one would want you without it. I saw that. Everyone sees that. The words were designed to hurt, and Ethan saw them land. Saw Lena's composure waver for just a second. You're wrong, Ethan said, moving to stand beside Lena. Not behind her, not in his usual position as the assistant in the background. Beside her. She's not alone, Marcus sneered. Oh, that's rich. The assistant playing hero. What are you going to do, Ethan? Organize her heartbreak into color-coded files? I'm going to be here, Ethan said simply, which is more than you ever were. Mr. Holloway, Rodriguez interjected, clearly done with the confrontation. We need you to come with us. There are questions that need answering, and this is not the venue for that discussion. Marcus looked at Lena one last time, his expression a mix of hatred and something that might have been regret. You really couldn't just let this play out, couldn't just be happy. I was never going to be happy with a lie, Lena said, no matter how pretty you dressed it up. Rodriguez and David escorted Marcus out, the door closing behind them with a heavy thud. The silence that followed was profound. Lena stood motionless in the center of the bridal suite, still in her wedding dress, sunlight streaming through the windows to illuminate all the beautiful, useless preparations for a marriage that would never happen. Downstairs, 300 guests waited for a ceremony that wasn't coming. Outside, photographers adjusted their cameras for pictures that would never be taken. I should cancel everything, Lena said finally, her voice barely above a whisper. The guests, the venue, She stopped, her hand going to her throat in that tell Ethan knew meant she was fighting tears. I'll handle it, Ethan said. You don't have to. He was right, Lena's voice cracked. About me being alone. About hiding behind success because I'm afraid of... He was wrong, Ethan interrupted firmly. He was a con artist saying whatever he thought would hurt you most. Don't give him that power. But what if he wasn't? Lena turned to face him, and Ethan saw tears tracking through her carefully applied makeup. What if I am exactly what he said? So focused on building my company that I can't build anything real with another person? You built something real with your team, with your investors, with... Ethan stopped himself. With you? Lena asked. Is that what you were going to say? The question hung between them, dangerous and honest. Outside, Ethan could hear the murmur of confused guests, probably wondering why the ceremony was delayed. His phone buzzed, probably his sister, asking when Mia should get ready for her flower girl duties that weren't going to happen. Yes, Ethan said, with me. Lena let out a shaky breath. 4 years we've worked together. 4 years of meetings and deadlines and late nights. And in all that time, did you ever... Every day, Ethan admitted. But you were my boss, and I have a daughter who depends on my income, and you deserve someone who isn't with you because of a paycheck. And if the job wasn't a factor, Lena asked quietly, if I wasn't your boss, if Mia's security wasn't tied to your employment, would you— I'd have told you I was falling for you about 3 years ago, Ethan said. Somewhere between the product launch where everything went wrong and you laughed instead of panicking, and the investor meeting where you eviscerated that guy who implied women don't understand technology. You were brilliant and terrifying and completely yourself, and I thought— He broke off, shaking his head. Thought what? Thought you were everything I never knew I was looking for. The confession seemed to echo in the quiet room. Lena was staring at him with an expression Ethan couldn't quite read. Surprise, maybe, mixed with something that looked like relief. I almost married the wrong person, she said slowly, because I was too afraid to admit I'd already found the right one. Ethan's heart stopped. Lena, you're right. The power dynamic makes this complicated. Your job, Mia's security, the fact that I literally sign your paychecks, it's all problematic. Lena stepped closer. But so is spending another 4 years pretending we don't feel what we feel. So is watching you stand behind me when I want you beside me. So is hiding behind professionalism when what I really want is— The door burst open again, and Ethan instinctively moved in front of Lena before registering that it was just Lena's assistant coordinator, looking frazzled. Ms. Hart, the guests are getting restless, and the venue is asking if we're ready to— She stopped, taking in Lena's tear-stained face and the obvious tension in the room. Oh no, did something happen with Marcus? You could say that, Lena said, her voice steadier now. Can you make an announcement? Tell the guests the wedding has been called off, but they're welcome to stay and enjoy the reception. The food and music are all paid for. It seems wasteful to let it go unused. The coordinator's eyes went wide. Called off, but— Personal reasons, Ethan interjected smoothly, falling back into his assistant role. Ms. Hart will release a statement later. For now, just let people know they're free to leave or stay as they prefer. And please, make sure no one disturbs this room for the next hour. The coordinator nodded, still looking shell-shocked, and retreated. When they were alone again, Lena started laughing. It was a slightly hysterical sound that made Ethan move toward her in concern. I'm okay, she said, waving him off even as she kept laughing. I planned this day down to the minute. The processional music, the vows, the first dance. I had a timeline, Ethan, a color-coded timeline. I know, I helped you make it, and none of it matters. None of it was real. Lena looked down at her dress. $300,000 for a dress I'll wear for an hour in an empty room. It's a beautiful dress, Ethan offered. It's a costume for a role I don't want anymore. Lena reached back, fumbling for the zipper. Help me out of this thing? Ethan hesitated. This felt like crossing another line in a day where they'd already crossed several. But Lena was looking at him with such raw honesty, such complete trust, that he couldn't refuse. His hands found the zipper, carefully lowering it the same way he'd raised it less than an hour ago. The dress loosened, revealing the simple white slip underneath. Thank you, Lena said quietly. She stepped away, letting the dress pool at her feet, and for a moment she just stood there in her slip and bare feet, looking more like herself than she had all morning. For what? Ethan asked. For telling me the truth, even when it was hard, even when it cost you. Lena met his eyes. You could have kept silent. Let me marry him. Protected your job. And watched you get hurt? Never. You risked everything for me. You're worth the risk. The words hung in the air between them. Outside, Ethan could hear the announcement being made. The wedding was off. There was a collective gasp, then rising murmurs of confusion and speculation. They're going to talk, Lena said. The guests, the press. By tomorrow, there will be articles speculating about what happened, about whether the tech CEO got cold feet or the groom ran off or— Let them talk, Ethan said. You know the truth. That's what matters. The truth, Lena repeated. She moved to the window, looking out at the gardens where guests were now standing in confused clusters, some leaving, some heading toward the reception area. The truth is that I'm standing in a bridal suite in my underwear, my wedding is canceled, and the man I almost married is probably being questioned by investigators right now. That's one truth. What's another? Ethan came to stand beside her at the window. Another truth is that you're free. Free from someone who saw you as a target instead of a person. Free from a relationship built on lies. Free to figure out what you actually want instead of what you think you should want. Lena turned to look at him. And if what I want is... She didn't finish the sentence, but she didn't have to. Ethan could see it in her eyes, in the way she was looking at him like he was something precious and terrifying all at once. Then we figure it out, he said. Not today, not in the chaos of a canceled wedding, but someday when you're ready, when we can navigate the complications. I'm tired of someday, Lena interrupted. I'm tired of being careful and strategic and 3 steps ahead. I'm tired of treating my personal life like a business deal that requires perfect conditions. Lena, I almost married someone who didn't love me, who saw me as a transaction. And standing here now, canceled wedding and ruined dress and all of it, I'm not sad about losing him. I'm sad that I almost lost the chance to try for something real. Ethan's phone buzzed again. He ignored it. Your sister, Lena noted, can wait. Mia is safe with family and doesn't need to know about any of this. Ethan took a breath. Lena, I need you to understand something. If we do this, if we try for whatever this could be, it changes everything. The job, the professional boundaries, the whole dynamic we've built. I'd have to quit or transfer or we could be honest, Lena said. Tell HR, document everything. Make sure there's no question about appropriateness or consent. Bring in mediators if we need to. Handle it the right way. And if it doesn't work out, then at least we tried. Lena reached out, her hand finding his. I've built a company from nothing. I've faced down hostile investors and market crashes and competitors who wanted to destroy me. I can handle the risk of trying for something real with someone who actually sees me. Her hand in his felt right in a way that made Ethan's carefully constructed arguments fall apart. For 4 years, he'd stood behind her, professional and distant. For 4 years, he'd ignored the way his heart sped up when she smiled, the way her laugh could brighten his worst days, the way she made him want to be better than he was. I see you, he said quietly. I've always seen you. Then stay, Lena said. Stay beside me. Not as my assistant, not as someone obligated to be here. Stay as yourself. Stay as the man who risked everything to protect me. Stay as... The door opened one more time. Both of them turned, expecting another coordinator or investigator. Instead, a little girl in a flower crown stood in the doorway, looking confused. Daddy? Mia said, her 6-year-old voice uncertain. Aunt Sarah said the party was canceled, but I got dressed up and everything. Ethan's heart sank. His sister must have brought Mia to the venue, not realizing the wedding was off. Hey, sweetheart, come here. Mia ran to him, and he scooped her up automatically. She was getting too big for this, but he held her anyway, this perfect, innocent piece of his world who had no idea what kind of day he was having. Is this the party place? Mia asked, looking around the bridal suite with wide eyes. Then she noticed Lena standing by the window in her slip. Are you a princess? Despite everything, Lena laughed. Not quite, sweetheart. Just someone who changed her mind about a big decision. Mia considered this with the seriousness only a 6-year-old could muster. Daddy says it's okay to change your mind if something doesn't feel right. Your daddy is very smart, Lena said. He's the smartest, Mia agreed loyally. Then, with the blunt honesty of childhood, why are you in your underwear? Mia, Ethan said, mortified. But Lena just smiled. Because sometimes fancy dresses are uncomfortable, and it's better to just be yourself. Mia nodded, like this made perfect sense. I don't like fancy dresses either, they're itchy. She looked at Ethan. Can we go home now? I'm hungry. Yeah, baby, we can go home. Ethan set her down, then looked at Lena. I should go, Lena said. Take care of your daughter. We can talk later. Later, Ethan agreed. But as he took Mia's hand and started toward the door, Lena called after him. Ethan? He turned back. Thank you, she said, for everything, for the truth, for staying, for... She gestured helplessly at the ruined wedding, the canceled future, the mess of it all, for being here when it mattered. Always, Ethan said, and meant it. As he led Mia out of the bridal suite, down the elegant hallways and past clusters of confused wedding guests, Ethan felt the weight of the day pressing down on him. He'd destroyed his boss's wedding, confessed feelings he'd hidden for years, and somehow ended up with his 6-year-old daughter meeting Lena while she stood in her underwear. It was a disaster. It was also, possibly, the most honest day of his life. "Daddy?" Mia tugged his hand as they reached the parking lot. "Is that lady going to be sad?" "Maybe for a little while," Ethan admitted. "But she's strong. She'll be okay. Will you help her not be sad?" Ethan looked down at his daughter, this perfect, perceptive little human who somehow always saw right to the heart of things. "If she wants me to, yeah, I'll help." "Good," Mia said firmly. "She seems nice, and she called you smart." "She did, didn't she?" Ethan smiled despite everything. As he buckled Mia into her car seat and started the drive home, his phone lit up with messages. His sister, asking what happened. David Chen, confirming Marcus was in custody. The venue coordinator, requesting final decisions about the reception. And one message from Lena, sent 5 minutes ago. "Tomorrow, coffee, just us, no agendas, no strategies, just honest conversation about what comes next, if you want." Ethan read it 3 times, his heart pounding. Then he typed back a single word. "Yes." In the rearview mirror, he could see Mia humming to herself, already forgetting about the canceled party, content just to be heading home. She had no idea that her father had just possibly changed the entire trajectory of their lives. Neither did Ethan, really. But for the first time in 4 years, instead of standing carefully behind the life he wanted, he was stepping toward it. Whatever came next, whatever complications they'd have to navigate, at least it would be real. At least it would be honest. At least they'd be facing it together. The coffee shop Lena chose was deliberately unremarkable. A neighborhood place 3 blocks from Ethan's apartment, the kind with mismatched furniture and a chalkboard menu that hadn't changed in months. Nothing like the sleek cafes near TechVise's downtown offices where they usually grabbed morning meetings between investor calls. Ethan arrived 10 minutes early, a habit so ingrained he couldn't break it even when meeting his former boss. His former boss, who he'd maybe confessed feelings for yesterday while her wedding imploded. The barista, a college student with purple hair, barely glanced up as he ordered his usual black coffee and found a corner table. His phone had been mercifully quiet overnight. Mia had fallen asleep in the car on the way home, exhausted from the emotional whiplash of getting dressed up for a party that never happened. His sister Sarah had texted exactly once. "You owe me an explanation tomorrow." He'd responded with tomorrow and left it at that. Now it was tomorrow, and Ethan had no idea what he was doing. The door chimed. Lena walked in wearing jeans and a sweater, her hair pulled back in a simple ponytail, no makeup that he could detect. She looked about as far from yesterday's bridal suite as possible, and somehow more beautiful for it. "Hey," she said, sliding into the seat across from him. "Hey." They stared at each other for a moment that stretched too long. Then Lena laughed, the sound breaking the tension. "This is weird, right? We've had approximately 800 coffee meetings, and suddenly I have no idea how to start a conversation with you. We could talk about quarterly projections," Ethan offered, "or that email campaign that needs approval. Except you don't work for me anymore." The words landed with unexpected weight. Ethan had sent his resignation email at 2 a.m, unable to sleep, the professional language feeling hollow as he typed it. "Effective immediately, due to personal circumstances requiring a transition in our professional relationship." "I didn't accept it," Lena said. Ethan blinked. "What?" "Your resignation. I rejected it." She signaled the barista for coffee. "You can't quit in the middle of the night via email after the most dramatic day of both our lives." "That's not how this works." "Lena, we can't. After yesterday, after everything we said, which is why I scheduled a meeting with HR for Monday morning." Lena accepted her coffee with a nod of thanks. "You, me, and Patricia from Human Resources. We're going to document everything. The timeline of our relationship, the power dynamic concerns, the steps we're taking to ensure compliance with company policy." "What steps?" Ethan asked carefully. "Well, for starters, you're getting reassigned. Elena Cortez needs a senior project coordinator for the new product launch. Same salary, same benefits, different reporting structure. You'd be working in a completely different division from me." Ethan processed this. Elena ran TechVice's consumer products division, a separate entity from Lena's executive operations. They'd be in the same building, but on different floors, different teams, no direct oversight. You had this planned, he said. I spent most of last night on the phone with Patricia, our lawyers, and Elena. Lena cupped her coffee with both hands. Turns out workplace romances between executives and assistants are complicated but not impossible. As long as there's clear documentation, no coercion, and appropriate structural changes to eliminate conflicts of interest. Workplace romance, Ethan repeated. That's what we're calling this? I don't know what else to call it. Lena met his eyes. Do you? Before Ethan could answer, his phone buzzed. He glanced at it. Sarah, texting a photo of Mia eating pancakes shaped like flowers. The message read, "She's asking about the princess from yesterday. Prepare yourself." Lena noticed his expression. Everything okay? Mia wants to know about the princess she met at the canceled party. Ethan showed her the photo. She has questions I'm not prepared to answer. What kind of questions? Whether you're sad. Whether I'm going to help make you not sad. Whether... He stopped, uncertain how much to share. Whether what? Lena prompted gently. Whether you might come over for dinner sometime. Ethan set down his phone. She's 6. In her world, if someone seems nice and makes her dad smile, obviously they should come eat chicken nuggets with us. I like chicken nuggets, Lena said. You eat organic kale salads and have a private chef. I also like chicken nuggets, especially dinosaur-shaped ones. Lena's smile was soft. Your daughter seems wonderful, by the way. Even in the middle of yesterday's chaos, she was just completely herself. Honest, curious, zero pretense. She doesn't know how to be anything else yet, Ethan said. The world hasn't taught her to hide. I hope it never does. Lena paused. How much does she know about me? About my job, I mean. Does she understand that you worked for someone important? She knows I help someone who runs a company. She's seen me take late-night calls and work weekends. But she's 6. She doesn't really grasp what TechVise does or why it matters. Ethan traced the rim of his coffee cup. I kept my work life separate from her on purpose. I didn't want her to feel like she was competing with my job for attention. Was she? Competing? Sometimes. The admission felt disloyal, but it was honest. There were school plays I missed because of emergency meetings. Bedtimes I wasn't home for because we were closing deals. I'd tell myself it was necessary, that providing for her meant sometimes not being present for her, but he broke off. But you still felt guilty, Lena finished, every single time. I knew about some of those, Lena said quietly. The missed events. I saw you check your phone during late meetings, saw you tense up when your sister texted. I should have told you to go home more often. You pay me to do a job. Paid, Lena corrected. Past tense, remember? And even when I was paying you, I should have recognized that a 6-year-old needs her father more than I need perfectly formatted expense reports at 10 p.m. Ethan smiled despite himself. Those expense reports were important. They really weren't, Lena leaned forward. Here's something I realized last night while I was on the phone with HR. For 4 years, I told myself I needed you as my assistant because you were competent and reliable and made my professional life manageable. But that wasn't the real reason I never wanted you to leave. What was the real reason? Because having you there made me feel less alone. Lena's voice dropped. Every morning, you'd show up with coffee and that little briefing about what was ahead. And for those few minutes, I'd feel like someone actually saw me. Not the CEO, not the brand, not the company valuation. Just me. The words hit Ethan hard because he understood them completely. He'd felt the same way every time Lena asked his opinion on something trivial. What color folders to use for presentations. Whether the office needed better snacks. She'd made him feel like his thoughts mattered beyond their professional utility. So what do we do now, he asked. Assuming I take this transfer to Elena's division, assuming we navigate the HR meetings and documentation, what happens with us? I don't know, Lena admitted. I've never done this before, wanted something personal badly enough to risk professional complications. What about Marcus? You were going to marry him. Marcus was safe, compartmentalized. I could keep him separate from work, from the parts of my life that really mattered. Lena's expression turned rueful, which should have been my first clue that something was wrong. If I could marry someone without integrating them into my actual life, was it really love? What is it with me? Ethan asked. If it's not safe, if it's complicated, It's real, Lena said simply. That's terrifying, but it's also the only thing that feels worth trying for. Ethan's phone buzzed again. This time it was a call from David Chen, Lena's lawyer. He silenced it. You should take that, Lena said, noticing the name on the screen. It can wait. It's about Marcus, about the investigation. Lena pulled out her own phone, which showed 3 missed calls from David. We should probably both talk to him. Together? Is that weird, taking a call from my lawyer with my former assistant who I'm maybe trying to date? Lena smiled wryly. Everything about this is weird, Ethan. We might as well embrace it. Ethan called David back on speaker. The lawyer's voice came through crisp and professional. Good, you're together. That saves me a second call. Papers rustled in the background. Marcus Holloway was formally charged this morning with identity fraud, marriage fraud, and attempted corporate espionage. The DA is building a case based on the evidence we compiled, and it looks solid. What about Jennifer? Lena asked. His actual wife. She's cooperating with investigators. Turns out she didn't know the full extent of Marcus's plans. She thought he was just working as a consultant for your company, not trying to marry you while still married to her. David paused. She's filing for divorce and requesting witness protection. Apparently Marcus has some business associates who aren't happy about the failed scheme. Ethan felt a chill. How dangerous are we talking? Probably not very, but the DA wants to be cautious. Lena, they're recommending increased security for you and anyone closely associated with you for the next few weeks. Another pause. That would include former employees with knowledge of your personal schedule and security arrangements. Meaning me, Ethan said. Meaning you, David confirmed. Look, it's probably overkill. Marcus seems more like a con artist than someone with genuine criminal connections. But until they verify who his associates are, the DA wants precautions in place. After the call ended, Lena and Ethan sat in silence. The coffee shop had filled up around them. Weekend crowds, families with strollers, college students with laptops. I should call Sarah, Ethan said finally. If there's even a remote chance of danger, I need to make sure Mia— Stay with me, Lena interrupted. What? My place has security. A doorman, cameras, secure parking. Bring Mia and Sarah if you want. I have guest rooms. Lena's words came faster, almost urgent. I know it's a lot, but if there's any risk to your daughter because of her connection to me— Lena, we don't even know if there's a real threat. I can't take that chance. Her voice was fierce. Yesterday, I almost married someone who wanted to destroy what I built. Today, I find out he might have criminal associates. If anything happened to Mia because I pulled you into this mess— You didn't pull me anywhere, Ethan said firmly. I chose to tell you about Marcus. I chose to stay yesterday. Those were my decisions. Decisions that might have put your daughter at risk. Or decisions that protected you from marrying a criminal. Ethan reached across the table, his hand covering hers. We don't even know if the threat is real, but if it makes you feel better, yes. We'll stay at your place until the DA gives the all clear. And Sarah? We'll probably have about 8,000 questions, but she'll understand. Ethan checked the time. I should go talk to her now. Explain everything before Mia overhears something she shouldn't. Want me to come with you? Lena offered. To explain to my sister that I'm moving into my former boss's apartment because my former boss's criminal ex-fiancé might be dangerous? Ethan managed to smile. That feels like a conversation I should handle solo. Fair point. Lena stood, gathering her things. But Ethan, when you're ready, when you've talked to Sarah and figured out what to tell Mia, I meant what I said. My home is open, for as long as you need. Driving to Sarah's house felt surreal. 24 hours ago, Ethan had been preparing for a wedding. Now he was preparing to explain to his sister that he'd confessed feelings to his boss, quit his job, and was potentially moving into said boss's luxury apartment because of nebulous criminal threats. Sarah opened the door before he could knock, her expression a mix of concern and exasperation. Mia's watching cartoons. You have 10 minutes to explain what the hell happened yesterday before I start asking questions in front of her. They sat at her kitchen table, the same table where Ethan had eaten countless meals as a struggling young father, where Sarah had helped him fill out custody paperwork and job applications and financial aid forms. She'd been 24 when he showed up with a newborn, barely out of college herself, but she'd never hesitated. Just moved him into her spare room and helped him figure out how to be a parent. The wedding got called off, Ethan started. I got that part from the venue announcement. What I didn't get was why you looked like someone had knocked the air out of you when I found you in the parking lot. Sarah poured coffee. And why Mia keeps talking about the sad princess in her underwear. Lena's not a princess, and the underwear thing was, it's complicated. Then uncomplicate it. So Ethan explained. The evidence about Marcus, the confrontation in the bridal suite, the conversation with Lena afterward. He left out some of the more personal admissions, but Sarah was perceptive enough to read between the lines. You're in love with her, she said when he finished. I didn't say that. You didn't have to. I've watched you work for Lena Hart for 4 years. I've seen you take calls at Christmas dinner and cancel plans because she needed something. I always thought you were just overly dedicated to your job, but it wasn't about the job, was it? Ethan rubbed his face. I have a 6-year-old daughter who depends on me. I couldn't afford to risk my employment on feelings that might not be reciprocated. And now? Now everything's different. I'm transferring to a different division. We're trying to figure out if what we feel is real or just proximity and crisis bonding. And in the meantime, her ex-fiancé might have criminal connections, so the DA wants us to take security precautions. Which means, Sarah prompted, which means Lena offered to let me and Mia stay at her place until the threat assessment is complete. It has better security than my apartment. Sarah processed this. So you're moving in with your boss, who you're in love with, who just had her wedding destroyed, who might be in danger from her criminal ex-fiancé. And you want to bring your 6-year-old daughter into this situation. Put that way, it sounded insane. The DA says the threat is probably minimal, Ethan said. They're just being cautious. And Lena's building is genuinely secure. Doorman, cameras, the works. It's safer than my place. That's not what I'm worried about. Sarah's voice softened. Mia already likes Lena. She's been asking about her all morning. If you move into Lena's apartment, if Mia gets attached and then things don't work out between you two. I know, Ethan said quietly. Believe me, I know. But Sarah, what am I supposed to do? Keep Mia in my apartment where there might be a security risk because I'm afraid of emotional complications? You're supposed to protect her. That's the job. I am protecting her by making sure she's somewhere safe while the DA figures out if there's a real threat. And after that, when the threat is resolved and you're still living with Lena Hart and Mia thinks you're a family? Sarah leaned forward. You were 19 when Mia was born. Her mother left when she was a baby. For 6 years, it's been you and her against the world. She's never had to share you with anyone serious. Are you ready for how that might change things? The questions hit home because Ethan had been asking himself the same things. Mia's whole life had been structured around their little unit of 2. Adding someone new, someone who might not stay, felt dangerous in ways that had nothing to do with criminal threats. I don't have all the answers, Ethan admitted, but I know that hiding from Lena because I'm scared isn't fair to anyone. Not to Lena, not to me, and not to Mia. Why not to Mia? Because if I teach her that you should avoid anything meaningful because it might hurt, what kind of lesson is that? Ethan met his sister's eyes. She deserves to see that taking risks on people can be worth it. Even if those risks don't work out, even then, because at least we tried. Sarah was quiet for a long moment. Then she sighed. You're going to do this no matter what I say, aren't you? Probably. Then promise me something. Promise me that if this situation gets messy, if Mia gets caught in the middle of adult drama, you'll pump the brakes. Put her first. I always put her first, Ethan said. I know you do, but love makes people stupid. Even you. Sarah stood. Come on, let's go tell your daughter she's having a sleepover at the princess's castle. Mia's reaction to the news was predictably enthusiastic. A sleepover at a fancy building with a doorman? With the nice lady from yesterday who wore the pretty dress? This was apparently the best news she'd received all year. Will there be a pool? She asked as Ethan packed her overnight bag. I don't know, sweetheart. Can I bring Mr. Whiskers? She held up her favorite stuffed cat, worn from years of bedtime snuggling. Of course. Will the princess be there? Lena will be there, yes. But Mia, she's not actually a princess. She's just a regular person who runs a company. Aunt Sarah says only princesses wear dresses that fancy, Mia said with the logic of childhood. So she must be a princess. Ethan decided not to argue. We're staying at her place because it's safer. There might be some confusing grown-up stuff happening, but I need you to promise me you'll stay close and listen to instructions, okay? Because of bad guys? Mia's eyes went wide. No bad guys, Ethan said quickly, mentally cursing himself for phrasing it that way. Just being extra careful, like wearing a helmet when you bike. This satisfied Mia, who went back to carefully selecting which toys absolutely had to come with them. Ethan watched her, this perfect, trusting little human who believed the world was fundamentally safe because he'd worked so hard to make it that way. Sarah caught his expression. Second thoughts? About 8,000 of them. But you're still going. Yeah, I'm still going. Lena's building was in the financial district, all glass and steel and modernist architecture. The doorman recognized her immediately, greeting her by name as she met Ethan and Mia in the lobby. Miss Hart, good to see you. His gaze flickered to Ethan and Mia with professional curiosity. James, this is Ethan Rowe and his daughter Mia. They'll be staying with me for a while. Please add them to my approved guest list. Of course, Ms. Hart. James handed Ethan a temporary key card. Welcome to the building, Mr. Rowe. Miss Mia. Mia stared at the key card like it was a treasure. We get a magic card? Just like a hotel, Ethan explained. The elevator ride to the 20th floor was quiet, except for Mia's running commentary on everything she saw. The carpet was soft. The walls were shiny. The buttons had numbers that lit up. Lena's apartment was exactly what Ethan expected. Sleek, modern, expensive. Floor-to-ceiling windows offered views of the city. The furniture looked like it belonged in design magazines. Everything was pristine and coordinated and utterly unlike Ethan's lived-in apartment with its crayon marks on the walls and mismatched furniture. Wow, Mia breathed. It's like a castle. It's just an apartment, Lena said, but she was smiling. A really big one. Want to see your room? The guest room Lena had prepared was thoughtful in ways that made Ethan's chest tight. She'd moved in a small bookshelf with children's books. There was a stuffed animal, a lion, sitting on the bed. The closet had been cleared for their things. When did you do all this? Ethan asked as Mia explored. This morning, after our coffee. Lena watched Mia test the bed's bounce factor. I wanted her to feel welcome. She already loves it, and you. I haven't done anything yet. You're letting us into your home. That's not nothing. Ethan set down their bags. Lena, are you sure about this? Having a 6-year-old in your space? Disrupting your routine? I'm sure. Lena's voice was firm. Besides, it's good practice. For what? For figuring out if I can actually do this. The relationship part, the integrating lives part. She gestured at the apartment. This place has always been my sanctuary. Controlled, quiet, exactly how I want it. If I can't handle sharing it, even temporarily, then what am I even trying for? Mia emerged from the bathroom, delighted by the discovery of fancy soap. Daddy, look! It smells like flowers. That's great, baby. Remember to wash your hands before dinner. Are we having chicken nuggets? Mia asked hopefully. Lena laughed. Actually, I thought we could make pizza from scratch. Have you ever made pizza before? Mia's eyes went huge. We can make pizza? If your dad says it's okay. Both of them looked at Ethan, who found himself nodding despite the strangeness of the situation. 24 hours ago, he'd been preparing to watch his boss marry someone else. Now he was in her apartment, about to make homemade pizza with his daughter. The universe had a twisted sense of humor. Making pizza turned out to be messy, chaotic, and exactly what they all needed. Lena taught Mia how to stretch the dough. And Mia taught Lena that pepperoni arranged in smiley faces tasted better than regular pepperoni. Flour ended up everywhere. The kitchen looked like a disaster zone. And for the first time since the wedding imploded, Ethan saw Lena genuinely relax. You're good with her, he said quietly, while Mia was washing tomato sauce off her hands. She makes it easy. No pretense, no agenda, just pure 6-year-old honesty. Lena wiped flour off the counter. It's refreshing. It's also exhausting. Wait until 3 a.m. when she has a nightmare and wants to describe it in excruciating detail. I'll manage. Lena met his eyes. Ethan, I know this is all happening fast. Yesterday the wedding, today moving in together. Temporarily, Ethan corrected. Right. Temporarily. But something in Lena's expression suggested she was thinking longer term. After dinner, after Mia had eaten her pizza smiley face first, and declared it the best food ever. Ethan got her ready for bed. The bedtime routine was familiar: grounding, pajamas, teeth brushing, the reading of exactly 3 stories because fewer than 3 was unacceptable and more than 3 was delaying tactics. "Daddy?" Mia asked as he tucked her in with Mr. Whiskers. "Yeah, baby? Is Lena going to be my new mommy?" The question hit like a freight train. Ethan sat on the edge of the bed, carefully choosing his words. "Lena is my friend. A very good friend. But we're still figuring out what that means. Gracie at school says when daddies and mommies are friends, they get married. Sometimes, but not always. Sometimes people are just friends." "But you like her," Mia said, with the certainty of a child who saw more than adults gave her credit for. "You smile different when she's around." "I do like her," Ethan admitted. "But liking someone doesn't automatically make them family. Family is more complicated than that." "Why?" "Because—" He stopped, unsure how to explain adult relationship dynamics to a 6-year-old. "Because it takes time to know if people fit together in the right way." "Like puzzle pieces," Mia offered. "Exactly like puzzle pieces." Mia considered this, her small face serious in the dim light from her nightlight. "I think you fit," she said finally. "You and Lena, like puzzle pieces." Maybe we do, baby, but we need time to be sure." "Okay." Mia yawned, already half asleep. "But Daddy, I hope you fit. She seems sad, and you're good at making sad people happy." Ethan kissed her forehead, his heart aching with love for this perceptive, kind little human. "Sleep tight, sweetheart." When he emerged from Mia's room, Lena was standing in the hallway. From her expression, she'd heard at least part of the conversation. "She thinks we fit," Lena said quietly. "She's 6. She thinks dinosaur chicken nuggets are a food group. But she's also perceptive." Lena moved toward the living room and Ethan followed. They settled on opposite ends of her couch, maintaining careful distance. "Ethan, what are we doing here?" "Honestly, I have no idea." "That's not particularly reassuring." "Would you prefer a lie?" He turned to face her. "I could tell you I have a plan, that I know exactly how to navigate a relationship with my former boss while protecting my daughter from getting hurt if things fall apart. But I don't. I'm making this up as I go. At least you're honest about it." Lena drew her knees up, wrapping her arms around them. "I've spent my entire adult life planning, building strategies, anticipating obstacles, controlling variables, and then you." "I'm a variable?" "You're the variable that breaks all my careful planning." Her voice was soft. "For 4 years I told myself you were just an excellent employee. Then yesterday happened, and I couldn't lie anymore. Couldn't pretend I didn't feel something every time you walked into my office. Couldn't ignore that you were the first person I wanted to talk to when something went right or wrong. Lena, let me finish." She took a breath. "I almost married Marcus because he fit into my plan. He was successful enough to understand my work, distant enough not to disrupt my routine, conventional enough to satisfy expectations. He was safe. And I'm not safe." "You're terrifying," Lena admitted, "because you make me want things I've never let myself want. A real partnership, not a strategic alliance. Someone who sees me at my worst and stays anyway. A relationship that isn't compartmentalized from the rest of my life." "Those sound like good things to want." "They are. They're also vulnerable, messy, unpredictable." She met his eyes. "I've built my whole career on being in control. Letting go of that control, trusting someone else with the pieces that matter. That's the scariest thing I've ever considered." Ethan moved closer, closing the distance between them on the couch. "You know what scares me? That I'll mess this up. That I'll hurt you, or worse, that I'll let Mia get attached to you and then we'll implode and she'll lose someone else she cares about." "We could implode," Lena said. "We could try this and fail spectacularly." "We could. But we could also not fail." Her hand found his. "We could actually figure it out." "How?" "By being honest, by communicating, by not making assumptions about what the other person needs." Lena's fingers laced through his. "And by accepting that even if we do everything right, there's no guarantee." "That's a terrible sales pitch for a relationship." "I'm not selling you anything. I'm just being real." She squeezed his hand. "I like you, Ethan Rowe. I like how you see problems 3 steps ahead. I like how you remember small details about people. I like how you love your daughter with your whole heart, even when it's complicated. And I'm willing to risk the scary possibility that like might turn into something more. Ethan looked at their joined hands, at this woman who dismantled his careful professional boundaries and made him want things he'd convinced himself were impossible. I'm willing to risk it too. Yeah? Yeah. He smiled. But we're doing this carefully. HR meetings, clear boundaries, making sure Mia's okay every step of the way. Agreed. We go slow. So slow. Glacially slow. They sat in comfortable silence, hands still joined, watching the city lights through the windows. Somewhere in the apartment, Mia was sleeping peacefully, trusting that her father would keep her safe. Somewhere in the city, investigators were building a case against Marcus. Somewhere, the wreckage of yesterday's canceled wedding was being cleaned up. But here, in this moment, Ethan let himself believe that maybe, just maybe, something real and good could come from the chaos. Ethan? Lena's voice was drowsy. Thank you. For telling me about Marcus, for staying yesterday, for bringing Mia here, for being willing to try. Thank you for giving me a reason to try. They stayed like that until Ethan's phone alarm reminded him that 6-year-olds woke up early and he should probably sleep while he could. Lena walked him to the guest room, lingering in the doorway. Breakfast at 8? She asked. Mia will be up at 6:30 demanding pancakes. Then pancakes at 6:30 it is. Lena smiled. Good night, Ethan. Good night, Lena. As he climbed into the unfamiliar bed in Lena's guest room, Ethan could hear Mia's soft breathing from the adjoining room. His daughter, safe and sound, sleeping in a place that might, if they were very lucky and very careful, become something more than just a temporary shelter. It wasn't where he'd expected to be 24 hours after his boss's wedding, but it felt, despite everything, exactly right. Mia woke at 6:17, which Ethan considered a minor miracle. She padded into his room clutching Mr. Whiskers, her hair a mess of tangles, and climbed onto the bed without preamble. Is it pancake time? She whispered, as if the early hour required stealth. Almost, baby. Give me 5 minutes to wake up. Can I go see if Lena's awake? Ethan's brain, still foggy with sleep, struggled to process the implications of his 6-year-old wandering through his maybe girlfriend's apartment. How about we wait until... But Mia was already gone, pattering down the hallway in her pajamas, with the cartoon cats on them. Ethan threw on clothes and followed, finding his daughter standing outside Lena's closed bedroom door, her hand raised to knock. Mia, wait! The door opened. Lena stood there in running clothes, earbuds around her neck, looking far too alert for 6:20 in the morning. Good morning, she said, smiling at Mia. You're up early. Daddy promised pancakes, Mia announced, but he's being slow. I am standing right here, Ethan protested. I was just about to go for a run, Lena said, but I could postpone it for pancakes. That seems like a fair trade. You run at 6 in the morning? Ethan asked. Every day. Helps me think. She gestured toward the kitchen. But today, thinking can wait. Let's make breakfast. The kitchen filled with the organized chaos of cooking with a child. Mia insisted on cracking the eggs, which resulted in shell fragments Lena patiently fished out. Ethan handled the griddle while Lena located maple syrup and butter, and somehow they fell into an easy rhythm, moving around each other like they'd done this 100 times before. You're good at this, Ethan observed as Lena showed Mia how to flip a pancake. At what? Cooking? At being around her. Some people get weird around kids, like they don't know how to talk to them. But you just treat her like a person. She is a person, Lena said, helping Mia execute a successful flip. A small person with less life experience, but still a person with valid thoughts and feelings. See, that's exactly what I mean. Most people don't get that. Mia looked up at him with syrup already on her cheek, despite not having started eating yet. I like Lena, Daddy. Can we keep her? Mia, Ethan started, mortified. But Lena laughed, a genuine sound that filled the kitchen. I like you too, Mia, and yes, you can keep me, at least for pancakes. They ate at Lena's dining table, which probably cost more than Ethan's car, and had definitely never seen a 6-year-old wielding syrup before. Mia chattered about everything and nothing, her best friend Gracie, the book she was reading, the fact that her teacher had a funny laugh. Lena listened with genuine interest, asking follow-up questions that made Mia beam. Watching them together, Ethan felt something in his chest loosen. He'd been so worried about bringing Mia into this situation, about the risk of her getting hurt. But seeing her giggle at something Lena said, seeing Lena's face soften with affection, maybe the risk was worth it. His phone buzzed. David Chen texting an update. DA confirmed threat assessment. Marcus's associates were mostly imaginary, designed to make him seem more important. Low-risk situation. Still recommend basic precautions for another week, but you can return to normal routines. Ethan showed the message to Lena. She read it, her expression unreadable. So we could go home, Ethan said carefully. Back to my apartment, if you want your space back. Is that what you want? I'm asking what you want. Lena glanced at Mia, who was constructing a pancake tower with intense concentration. What if we kept things as they are for a few more days? Let Mia settle in, make sure there are really no security concerns, then we can reassess. You're sure? Having us here is disrupting your whole routine. Maybe I needed my routine disrupted. Lena reached across the table, her hand finding his. Maybe this is good for me. Before Ethan could respond, Mia announced that her pancake tower was complete and they should all admire it immediately. So they did, praising her architectural skills while syrup dripped onto Lena's expensive table runner. The morning stretched into afternoon in a way that felt both strange and natural. Lena had promised to work from home, setting up in her office while Ethan kept Mia entertained. But the walls were thin enough that he could hear Lena on conference calls, her voice shifting into that crisp professional tone he knew so well. The Q3 projections are aggressive but achievable, she was saying. We need to increase marketing spend in the Asian markets, particularly Mia. Is that you? Ethan looked up to find his daughter had wandered into Lena's office, apparently fascinated by the wall of monitors and tech equipment. I'm sorry, Ethan said, appearing in the doorway to retrieve her. Mia, we talked about not interrupting when people are working. It's fine, Lena said to him, then to her video call. Sorry, everyone. Working from home today with some young visitors. Give me 2 minutes. She muted herself and swiveled to face Mia. Pretty cool setup, right? What are all the screens for? Mia asked. Different things. This one shows our company's performance. This one has emails. This one tracks our competitors. When you run a company, you have to watch a lot of information at once. That sounds hard. It is hard, but also fun, like a really complicated puzzle. Lena glanced at Ethan. You want to sit in on the call? You'd have insights on the marketing discussion. Ethan blinked. I don't work for you anymore, remember? You're still the smartest strategist I know, and this is Elena's division we're discussing. Your new boss. Might be useful for you to hear the context. She patted the chair next to her. Mia can hang out with the monitors. So Ethan found himself back in a leadership meeting, offering input on market positioning while his daughter played with the stress ball she'd found on Lena's desk. It felt surreal and comfortable all at once, this blending of professional and personal that they'd kept so carefully separated for years. After the call, Lena stretched and checked her watch. I should take Mia to the park or something. She's been cooped up all morning. You don't have to do that, Ethan said. You have work. Work can wait. Besides, I need to prove I can do the normal parent things. Lena looked uncertain for the first time that day. Unless you don't want me taking her, I understand if that's too much, too fast. Are you kidding? She'd love it. Just be prepared for approximately 8 million questions. They ended up at the park 3 blocks from Lena's building, Mia racing toward the playground equipment while Ethan and Lena followed at a more sedate pace. This is weird, right? Lena said. 2 days ago I was supposed to be on my honeymoon. Instead, I'm at a playground. Regrets? Not even a little. She watched Mia navigate the monkey bars. Is it wrong that I'm relieved? That the wedding fell apart? It's honest, Ethan said. You were about to marry someone who saw you as a transaction. Being relieved about dodging that seems pretty reasonable. But I should be devastated. I should be crying into ice cream and deleting photos and doing all the things people do after major breakups. Lena shoved her hands in her pockets. Instead, I'm just okay. Better than okay, actually. Maybe because you knew something was wrong before it ended. You'd already started grieving the relationship you thought you had. When did you get so wise about emotions? single parenting a 6-year-old. You learn emotional intelligence fast when you're trying to explain why her mother left. Ethan's voice was matter of fact, but Lena heard the old hurt underneath. You never talk about her, Mia's mother. Not much to say. We were kids ourselves. She got scared and ran. I stayed. He watched Mia attempt the slide backward, giggling at her own daring. Best decision I ever made, staying, even when it was hard. Do you ever hear from her? Once, about 2 years ago. She sent a letter saying she was sorry, that she hoped we were doing okay. I didn't respond. What was I supposed to say? Thanks for abandoning your infant daughter. We're managing just fine without you. You could have said that, actually. It would have been valid. Ethan smiled despite himself. I took the high road instead. Figured Mia might want to read that letter someday. Know that her mother at least thought about her. Didn't want it contaminated with my anger. That's incredibly mature. That's incredibly therapy. Sarah made me see a counselor after the first year. Best gift she ever gave me, forcing me to process my shit instead of just powering through. Lena was quiet for a moment, watching Mia convince another child to join her in a game that seemed to involve a lot of running and shrieking. I should probably do that. Therapy, I mean. Process the Marcus situation properly instead of just jumping into something new. Is that what this is? Jumping into something new? I don't know what this is. Lena turned to face him. But I know I want to figure it out. Do you? Before Ethan could answer, Mia ran over, breathless and red-cheeked. Daddy, can we get ice cream, please? Lena said there's a good place nearby. I said there might be a good place, Lena corrected. I've never actually been. You live 3 blocks away and you've never been to the ice cream shop? Ethan asked. I'm usually working, or running, or sleeping. Lena looked embarrassed. My life isn't exactly balanced. Well, today we're changing that. Ice cream it is. The shop was small and cheerful, run by an older couple who clearly recognized regulars and welcomed newcomers with equal warmth. Mia ordered strawberry in a cone, Lena got chocolate, and Ethan went for vanilla because some things didn't need to be complicated. They ate while walking back toward the apartment, Mia skipping ahead while Ethan and Lena followed, and for a moment it felt like they were a family. Not pretending, not performing, just existing together in the simple pleasure of ice cream on a Saturday afternoon. This is nice, Lena said quietly. Ice cream usually is. I meant this. Being out, doing normal things. No agenda, no schedule. She licked a drip of chocolate from her cone. I'd forgotten what this feels like, just being present. It's harder than it sounds, Ethan admitted. Being present. Especially when you're used to thinking 3 steps ahead. How do you manage it? With Mia, with work, with everything? Badly, most days, but she helps. He nodded toward his daughter, who was now trying to walk along the curb like a tightrope. Kids don't let you live in your head. They demand presence. Teach me, Lena said suddenly. Teach you what? How to be present. How to turn off the strategic planning and just exist in a moment. She stopped walking, facing him. I'm serious, Ethan. I've spent so long optimizing and planning and controlling that I don't remember how to just be. You were pretty present making pancakes this morning because I was focused on not letting Mia burn herself on the griddle. That's just redirected anxiety. Ethan laughed. Okay, fair point. But Lena, you don't need me to teach you how to be present. You just need to give yourself permission to stop performing. I don't know how to do that. Then we'll figure it out together, one ice cream cone at a time. Back at the apartment, Mia crashed hard from her sugar-high and active morning, falling asleep on Lena's couch during a movie about talking animals. Ethan moved to carry her to bed, but Lena stopped him. Let her sleep there. She looks comfortable. So they covered Mia with a blanket and retreated to the kitchen, speaking in low voices so as not to wake her. I have the HR meeting scheduled for Monday morning, Lena said, pulling out her phone to show him the calendar invite. 9 a.m., you, me, and Patricia from Human Resources. What exactly are we telling her? The truth, that we've developed feelings for each other, that we're exploring whether a relationship is possible, that we're taking steps to eliminate any conflicts of interest. Lena set down her phone. Patricia will document everything. Make sure we're following policy. As long as we're transparent and you're transferred out of my reporting structure, we're compliant. And if it doesn't work out, if we try this and fail, then we deal with it professionally. like adults. Lena's voice was firm, but Ethan could see the uncertainty in her eyes. We can't let fear of failure stop us from trying, Ethan. That's not how either of us operates. In work, sure, but this isn't work. No, Lena agreed. It's scarier than work, because work I understand. This, she gestured between them, this is uncharted territory. Ethan's phone rang, breaking the moment. Sarah's name flashed on the screen. I should take this, he said, stepping onto Lena's balcony for privacy. How's the sleepover going? Sarah asked without preamble. Fine, good, actually. Mia loves it here. And you? How are you doing with all this? Honestly, I don't know. It's weird and comfortable at the same time. Lena made pancakes with Mia this morning, and we went to the park, and it felt like… He stopped. Like what? Like maybe this could actually work. Like maybe I didn't completely lose my mind quitting my job and moving into my boss's apartment. Sarah was quiet for a beat. Ethan, I love you, and I want you to be happy. But I need to ask, are you doing this because you genuinely want to build something with Lena, or because you're caught up in the drama and emotion of the moment? I don't know how to answer that. Then maybe that's your answer. Maybe you need to slow down, get some distance, figure out what you actually feel when you're not in the middle of crisis mode. The DA said the threat is minimal. We could go home. But you're not going home, are you? Ethan looked through the glass door at Lena, who was adjusting the blanket around sleeping Mia with such careful tenderness it made his heart ache. No, I'm not. Then promise me you're being smart about this. For Mia's sake, if not your own. I promise. After he hung up, Ethan stayed on the balcony for a moment, looking out at the city. 2 days ago, his life had been predictable. Challenging, certainly. Single parenting always was, but predictable. Now everything was uncertain, shifting, full of possibility and risk in equal measure. You okay? Lena had joined him on the balcony, closing the door quietly behind her. Sarah thinks I'm making decisions based on crisis and emotion rather than clear thinking. Is she wrong? I don't know. Maybe. Ethan turned to face her. How do you know the difference between genuine feelings and just getting caught up in the intensity of the moment? I don't think you can know for sure. Not until time passes and you see if the feelings stick. Lena leaned against the railing. But I know this. What I feel when I'm around you doesn't feel temporary. It feels like something I've been ignoring for a long time finally getting acknowledged. 4 years, Ethan said. We've been dancing around this for 4 years. Which is either a sign that we're being careful and responsible, or a sign that we're both cowards who avoid difficult emotional territory. But can it be both? Lena smiled. Probably. Most things are more complicated than they seem on the surface. Speaking of complicated, Ethan said, what do we tell people? About us, I mean. Your team, my sister, Mia's school. What do you want to tell them? I want to tell them the truth, that we're trying to figure out if what we feel is real, that we're taking it slow and being careful because there are other people involved. He paused. But I also want to tell them to mind their own business because this is scary enough without outside commentary. We could do both. Be honest, but boundaried. Lena moved closer. Ethan, I know this is messy. I know the timing is terrible and the circumstances are complicated, but I don't want to wait anymore for the perfect moment that never comes. Do you? No, I don't want to wait. Then we don't wait. We just move forward carefully, with our eyes open. She reached for his hand. Together. Through the glass door, they could see Mia still sleeping peacefully, her small face relaxed in dreams. The sight made Ethan's decision crystallize. Yes, this was scary. Yes, the timing was objectively terrible. But standing here with Lena, their hands linked, the city spread out below them. It felt right in a way nothing had felt right in years. Together, he agreed. Sunday morning arrived with the chaos of Mia discovering Lena's building had a rooftop garden. She was practically vibrating with excitement by the time they made it upstairs, Ethan carrying a picnic breakfast Lena had insisted on packing. Look, Daddy, you can see everything. Mia pressed her face against the safety glass, taking in the view. It's pretty amazing, Ethan admitted. He'd lived in the city for years but had never seen it from this angle, the way the buildings created patterns, how the early morning light caught the windows just so. I come up here when I need to think, Lena said, spreading out the blanket. Something about the height makes problems feel more manageable. Or makes you feel smaller in comparison to the city, Ethan offered. That too. Humbling. They ate bagels and fruit while Mia explored every corner of the garden, examining plants with the intense curiosity of childhood. Other residents came and went, a young couple with a dog, an elderly man with a newspaper, nodding politely but maintaining the careful privacy of city dwellers. Do you ever talk to them? Ethan asked. Your neighbors? Not really. I know their faces. We exchange pleasantries in the elevator, but that's about it. Lena watched the elderly man settle into a chair with his paper. I've lived here 3 years and I couldn't tell you any of their names. That's kind of sad. That's city living. Everyone's busy. Everyone's in their own world, she paused. Or maybe I'm just bad at connecting with people who aren't useful to me professionally. That's harsh. But probably true. I've spent so long networking and building strategic relationships that I forgot how to just be friendly without an agenda. Lena pulled her knees up, resting her chin on them. That's what Marcus saw. That calculated approach to relationships. He figured I'd treat marriage the same way, like a beneficial merger. But you didn't want that, not really. No, I wanted... She stopped, struggling for words. I wanted what my parents had. This easy partnership where they just existed together. No performance, no strategy. Just two people who genuinely liked each other building a life. What happened to them? Your parents? Dad died when I was in college. Heart attack. Totally unexpected. Mom remarried a few years later, moved to Arizona. We talk once a month, very surface-level conversations. Lena's voice was carefully neutral. She thinks I work too much, that I should have kids, that I'm wasting my life building a company instead of a family. That's unfair. Is it? Sometimes I wonder if she's right, if I've been so focused on professional success that I've missed the point entirely. Ethan reached over, his hand covering hers. You built something remarkable. TechVise has changed how millions of people work. That's not nothing. But what do I have to show for it personally? A canceled wedding, an apartment I barely spend time in, a rooftop garden I use to escape from my own loneliness. She laughed, but it sounded hollow. I'm 34 years old, and the closest thing I have to a real friend is my former assistant. Former assistant who's sitting right here, for the record. You know what I mean. I do. And Lena? For what it is worth, I don't think you've missed the point. I think you've been protecting yourself. Building walls with work and success, because that feels safer than risking real connection. You're not wrong. She looked at him. But sitting here with you, with Mia, I don't want safe anymore. I want real. Mia chose that moment to race back, breathless and excited. Can we plant something? There's empty pots over there. I don't think those belong to us, Ethan started. Actually, residents can use the community pots, Lena said. There's seeds and soil in the shed. Want to plant some flowers? 20 minutes later, they were all covered in dirt, Mia giving very serious instructions about how deep to plant each seed, while Lena and Ethan tried not to laugh at her intensity. This one is going to be pink, Mia announced, and this one will be yellow, and this one, she paused dramatically. This one will be both because magic. That's not how genetics work, baby, Ethan said. It's how magic works, Mia countered with 6-year-old certainty. Lena caught Ethan's eye over Mia's head, her smile warm and genuine. In that moment, covered in potting soil with a child explaining magic flowers, she looked more relaxed than Ethan had ever seen her. Thank you, she mouthed silently. For what? He mouthed back. This. She gestured at the scene, the garden, the dirt, the simple joy of planting something without strategy or agenda. The moment was interrupted by Lena's phone ringing. She glanced at it, her expression tightening. It's the investigator. I should take this. She stepped away, and Ethan could hear fragments of conversation. Marcus's case was progressing. Questions about testimony. Something about asset recovery. When Lena returned, her professional mask was back in place. They need me to come in tomorrow. Give a formal deposition about Marcus's access to company information. Before or after our HR meeting? After. It's going to be a long day. She looked exhausted just thinking about it. We could go home, Ethan offered. Give you your space back to prepare. No, Lena's voice was firm. I mean, unless you want to. But having you here, having both of you here, it helps. Makes it feel less like my life is imploding. Your life isn't imploding. You're just dismantling the parts that weren't working and rebuilding better. Is that what we're calling this? Rebuilding? What would you call it? Lena looked at Mia, who was watering the newly planted seeds with intense concentration. Starting over, getting it right this time? The rest of Sunday passed in quiet domesticity. They made dinner together, Mia insisting on helping with every step, even when her help made things take twice as long. They watched a movie. Mia nestled between them on the couch. They read bedtime stories, Lena joining them in Mia's room and listening to Ethan do the different voices. When Mia was finally asleep, Ethan and Lena found themselves back in the living room, the city lights twinkling through the windows. Tomorrow is going to be intense, Lena said. HR meeting, deposition, probably about 8,000 emails asking what happened to the wedding. You want help drafting a statement? Ethan offered. I'm good at corporate messaging. I know you are. You wrote most of my public communications for 4 years. She smiled. But this one I need to handle myself. Own the narrative, be transparent about the fraud, move forward. You're going to be fine. You're always fine. I don't feel fine. I feel like I'm standing on the edge of something and I don't know if I'm about to fly or fall. Ethan moved closer, his hand finding hers again. It was becoming a habit, this physical connection. What if you do both, fall and fly at the same time? Is that possible? I don't know, but if anyone can figure it out, it's you. Lena leaned her head against his shoulder, a gesture so trusting it made Ethan's heart clench. I'm scared, she admitted quietly. Of the deposition, of what people will say, of messing this up with you, all of it. Being scared means you care. That's not a bad thing. It feels bad. I know, but you're not doing it alone. That's the point of this, right? We're figuring it out together. They sat like that for a long time, the silence comfortable, the contact grounding. Outside, the city hummed with life. Millions of people living their complicated, messy lives, all trying to figure out their own versions of falling and flying. When Ethan finally went to bed, he lay awake thinking about tomorrow. The HR meeting would make everything official, would formalize the shift from boss and assistant to something else entirely. The deposition would force Lena to relive the Marcus situation, to testify about how thoroughly she'd been deceived. It was a lot, maybe too much. But then he thought about Mia's laughter in the rooftop garden, about Lena's smile when she was covered in dirt, about the way it felt to hold her hand and know that for the first time in 4 years, he didn't have to hide what he felt. And he thought, maybe it's exactly enough. Monday morning came too quickly. Ethan woke to the sound of Lena already moving through the apartment, her footsteps purposeful even at 6 a.m. He found her in the kitchen, dressed in a sharp charcoal suit, her hair pulled back severely, looking every inch the CEO who'd built an empire from nothing. You're up early, he said. Couldn't sleep. Too much running through my head. She poured coffee with hands that weren't quite steady. The HR meeting is at 9. I keep rehearsing what to say, how to frame everything. Lena, it's Patricia. You've known her for 3 years. She's not going to judge you. She's going to document that I developed romantic feelings for my assistant. That sounds unprofessional no matter how you frame it. Lena set down her coffee cup too hard, liquid sloshing over the rim. What if this tanks my credibility? What if the board sees this as proof I can't maintain appropriate boundaries? Ethan moved closer, gently taking the cup from her hands before she could spill more. The board already knows you can run a company. One HR meeting about a workplace relationship doesn't erase 4 years of growth and success. You don't know that. I do know that, because I've watched you handle hostile investors, failed product launches, and competitors trying to destroy you. You've survived worse than an HR meeting. Lena leaned against the counter, her carefully constructed armor cracking slightly. This feels different, more personal, more like failure. It's not failure, it's honesty. Ethan set the coffee aside and took both her hands. We're doing this the right way, documenting everything, making structural changes, being transparent. That's the opposite of failure. Then why does it feel like I'm about to confess to something shameful? Because feelings are vulnerable, and you've spent your whole life treating vulnerability like weakness. He squeezed her hands. But it's not weakness, Lena. It's just being human. She looked at him for a long moment, and some of the tension in her shoulders eased. When did you get so good at talking me down from panic spirals? 4 years of practice. You get stressed before big presentations. You reorganize your desk when deals aren't closing, and you make exactly this face when you're afraid of being judged. He touched her cheek gently. I know you, Lena. All of you. Not just the CEO version. That's what scares me, she admitted. You know me well enough to see through all my defenses. What if you don't like what you find underneath? I already know what's underneath. I've been seeing it for 4 years. And I'm still here. The sound of small feet padding down the hallway interrupted them. Mia appeared, her hair a wild tangle, Mr. Whiskers dragging behind her. Why is everyone awake so early? She asked, rubbing her eyes. Because adults make poor life choices, Ethan said, scooping her up. How about we make you breakfast and then Daddy has to go to some boring meetings? Can I come? Not to these meetings, baby, but Aunt Sarah is going to pick you up and take you to the zoo. Mia's sleepiness vanished instantly. The zoo? Really? Really? Lena and I have work stuff today, so you get a special Aunt Sarah day. While Ethan got Mia ready, Lena returned to her laptop, typing furiously. He recognized the posture. She was stress-working, trying to control something when everything else felt uncertain. Sarah arrived at 8:30, taking in the scene with knowing eyes. Lena in her corporate armor, Ethan in clothes he'd borrowed from the spare items he kept at Lena's place for overnight work emergencies. Mia bouncing with zoo excitement. Interesting living situation you've got here, Sarah said to Ethan, her tone neutral but her expression saying they'd be having a conversation later. It's temporary, Ethan said automatically. Is it? Sarah looked at Lena, who was helping Mia put on her shoes. Because it looks pretty settled to me. We're figuring it out, Lena said, meeting Sarah's gaze directly. I know this is fast and probably seems crazy, but we're being careful, especially where Mia is concerned. Sarah studied her for a moment, then nodded. Good. Because that little girl has already lost one mother. She doesn't need to lose another person she cares about. The words landed hard. Lena's expression flickered, hurt, then determination. I understand, and I promise if this doesn't work out, we'll handle it in a way that protects her. See that you do, Sarah softened slightly. But for what it's worth, I haven't seen my brother this happy in years, so don't screw it up. After Sarah left with Mia, the apartment felt too quiet. Lena gathered her materials for the meetings while Ethan changed into the suit he'd brought over the previous day, and they drove to TechVi's headquarters in Lena's car, the silence heavy with anticipation. The building looked the same as always, glass and steel and ambition made physical. But walking through the doors felt different. Ethan wasn't arriving as Lena's assistant, 3 steps behind her, ready to handle whatever crisis emerged. He was arriving as himself, about to formalize a massive shift in how he related to this place and the woman beside him. Patricia Chen's office was on the executive floor, decorated with family photos and motivational posters that somehow managed not to be cringeworthy. She greeted them warmly, gesturing to the chairs across from her desk. Lena, Ethan, thanks for coming in. Patricia settled into her chair with a legal pad and pen. So, I understand we need to discuss a workplace relationship and appropriate next steps? Lena straightened, her CEO voice activating. Yes, Ethan and I have developed feelings for each other that go beyond our professional relationship. We want to explore the possibility of a romantic relationship, but we recognize that creates conflicts of interest given our current reporting structure. Patricia made notes. How long have these feelings existed? For me, approximately 4 years, Lena said, though I only recently acknowledged them. And you, Ethan? About the same timeline, but I never acted on them or allowed them to influence my professional judgment. He paused. Until I told Lena the truth about her fiancé. That decision was motivated by genuine concern for her well-being, not romantic interest, but it's possible the two became intertwined. Tell me about that situation, Patricia said. I heard the wedding was called off, but not the details. So Lena explained. Marcus's fraud, the investigation, the canceled wedding. Patricia listened, her expression growing more concerned as the story unfolded. I'm sorry you went through that, she said when Lena finished. And I'm glad Ethan brought it to your attention. That took courage, given the professional risk. That's part of why we're here, Ethan said. I couldn't watch her marry someone dangerous, even if it meant risking my job. And that decision made me realize I couldn't keep hiding how I felt. Patricia tapped her pen against her pad. Okay, here's what I need to confirm. Ethan, did Lena ever pressure you, implicitly or explicitly, to pursue a romantic relationship? Did you ever feel that your job security depended on reciprocating her feelings? No, absolutely not. If anything, I was the one pushing for this conversation. And Lena, did Ethan's position as your assistant influence your feelings? Was there a power dynamic component that might have been inappropriate? Lena considered this carefully. I won't lie and say the power dynamic didn't exist. It did, obviously. But what I feel for Ethan has nothing to do with him being my assistant. It's about who he is, his integrity, his intelligence, the way he sees the world. I'd feel the same way if he worked in a completely different company. Which is exactly what we're proposing, Ethan added. A transfer to Elena Cortez's division. Same salary and benefits, but different reporting structure. Lena and I would be colleagues, not supervisor and subordinate. Patricia made more notes. Elena's aware of this proposed transfer? Yes, Lena confirmed. I spoke with her Friday. She's supportive and has a position that matches Ethan's skill set. And you're both prepared for the complications this might create? The gossip, the questions about whether the relationship influenced professional decisions in the past. We're prepared, Lena said firmly. We know people will talk, but we're committed to maintaining professional boundaries at work and being transparent about any potential conflicts. Patricia studied them both, her expression thoughtful. You know what I see? Two people who are trying to do this right. Most workplace romance situations that cross my desk involve deception, inappropriate conduct, or lack of transparency. This is none of those things. Ethan felt some of the tension in his chest ease. That said, Patricia continued, there are still requirements. Ethan, your transfer needs to be finalized by end of week. During the transition, you'll report directly to Elena, not Lena, even for outstanding projects. Lena, you'll need to recuse yourself from any decisions affecting Ethan's compensation, performance reviews, or advancement opportunities. And both of you need to disclose this relationship to your immediate supervisors and keep a record of how you're managing potential conflicts. We can do that, Lena said. Then consider this documented. Patricia smiled. And for what it's worth, I hope it works out. You've both contributed enormously to this company. You deserve happiness too. After the meeting, Lena had 3 hours before her deposition. They grabbed lunch at a quiet cafe 2 blocks from the DA's office, both picking at their food without much appetite. That went better than I expected, Ethan said. Patricia's reasonable. I knew she would be. It's everyone else I'm worried about. Lena pushed salad around her plate. By tomorrow, the whole company will know. There'll be speculation about whether our relationship affected business decisions, whether I showed you favoritism, whether you were using me for career advancement. Well, let them speculate. We know the truth. Do we? Lena set down her fork. What if they're right? What if I did show you favoritism without realizing it? You got raises every year, bonuses that exceeded department averages. What if my feelings influenced those decisions? Or what if I earned those raises and bonuses through excellent work? Ethan countered. Lena, you can't second-guess every professional decision you made in the past 4 years. That's a spiral with no bottom. But how do I know the difference between genuine merit and unconscious bias? You trust yourself. You trust that you're the person who built a company on integrity and fair dealing. One relationship doesn't erase that. Lena checked her watch. I should go. The deposition starts in 20 minutes. Want me to come with you? I can wait outside. You don't have to. I want to. If you want me there. She reached across the table, her hand finding his. I want you there. The DA's office was exactly as sterile and intimidating as expected. Lena disappeared into a conference room with her lawyer and the prosecutors, leaving Ethan in a waiting area with uncomfortable chairs and outdated magazines. He tried to focus on his phone, checking email and responding to messages from Elena about his transfer, but his mind kept drifting to what Lena was experiencing in that room. She'd have to recount the entire Marcus situation, how they met, how the relationship developed, when she first suspected something was wrong. She'd have to admit to being deceived, to nearly marrying someone who saw her as a mark. For someone who valued control as much as Lena did, that vulnerability would be excruciating. An hour passed, then 2. Ethan was considering getting coffee when the door finally opened and Lena emerged, looking exhausted. "How did it go?" he asked. "It's done. They have what they need." Her voice was flat, professional. "Can we just go? I need to not be here." They drove back to Lena's apartment in silence. Ethan could feel her retreating into herself, building walls against whatever she was feeling. He recognized the pattern. It was how she handled stress, by compartmentalizing and controlling. Back at the apartment, Lena went straight to her office, closing the door. Ethan gave her space, checking in with Sarah about Mia, and then attempting to make dinner. He was halfway through chopping vegetables when Lena finally emerged, still in her suit, but looking rumpled and worn. "I told them everything," she said without preamble. "Every detail of how Marcus manipulated me, how I believed his lies, how thoroughly he played me. They recorded it all." "That must have been difficult." "It was humiliating." Lena's voice cracked slightly. "Having to admit how naive I was, how easily I was fooled. The prosecutors were professional about it, but I could see what they were thinking. How does someone smart enough to build a company worth millions fall for such obvious cons? Because con artists are good at what they do. That's why they're successful. Or because I was so desperate not to be alone that I ignored every red flag." She moved to the window, looking out at the city. "You know what the worst part was? They asked if I'd suspected anything before you told me. And I had to admit that yes, I'd had doubts. I'd noticed inconsistencies in Marcus's stories, times when things didn't add up, but I ignored them because acknowledging them would mean admitting I'd made a mistake." Ethan moved to stand beside her. "That doesn't make you naive. That makes you human. It makes me the same as every other person who's been conned, too proud to admit they were wrong, too hopeful to see what was right in front of them." She turned to face him. "What if I'm doing the same thing now, with us? What if I'm so desperate to not be alone that I'm convincing myself this is real when it's just rebound? Is that what you think this is? I don't know what to think anymore. 3 days ago, I was supposed to get married. Today, I'm living with my former assistant and telling prosecutors how stupid I was about my last relationship. How am I supposed to trust my judgment about anything?" The pain in her voice made Ethan's chest tight. "What can I do? How can I help?" "You can't. This is my mess to sort through." She rubbed her face. "I'm sorry. I know I'm being unfair. You've been nothing but supportive and honest. It's not your fault I'm spiraling." "It's not about fault. It's about being there for each other, remember?" Ethan touched her arm gently. "Lena, you don't have to have it all figured out right now. You're allowed to be confused and scared and uncertain. That's okay. It doesn't feel okay. It feels like I'm falling apart." "Then fall apart. I'll be here when you're ready to put the pieces back together." Lena looked at him with something like wonder. "How are you so patient with me?" "Because I know you. I know this." He gestured at her distress. "This isn't weakness. It's processing. It's healing. And I know that tomorrow or next week or whenever you're ready, you'll come out of this stronger. You have a lot of faith in me. I've earned that faith. 4 years of watching you handle impossible situations and come out on top." She leaned into him, her head against his chest, and Ethan wrapped his arms around her, holding her steady while she shook with silent tears. It wasn't dramatic or performative, just honest emotion finally being allowed expression. They stood like that until Ethan's phone rang, Sarah returning with Mia. "I should let them up," Ethan said. "No, wait." Lena pulled back, wiping her eyes. "Give me 5 minutes to wash my face. I don't want Mia to see me like this." "She wouldn't judge you for crying." "I know, but I need to feel put together before I face her, please." Ethan gave her 10 minutes, then let Sarah and Mia into the apartment. His daughter was buzzing with zoo excitement, talking rapidly about elephants and penguins and ice cream. "We saw the baby monkey," she exclaimed, "and Aunt Sarah says we can go back next month if we're good." "That sounds amazing, sweetheart." Sarah caught his eye over Mia's head, her expression asking silent questions. Ethan gave a small shake of his head. "Not now. Not in front of Mia." Lena emerged from her bedroom looking composed again, the tear-streaked vulnerability replaced with a smile for Mia. How was the zoo? She asked. So good, we saw everything. Well, almost everything. The tigers were sleeping. Mia grabbed Lena's hand. Next time you should come with us. I'd like that, Lena said, and she sounded like she meant it. After Sarah left, they made dinner together, pasta with sauce from a jar because none of them had the energy for complicated cooking. Mia chattered about her day while Lena listened with genuine interest, asking questions about which animals were her favorite and what she learned. Watching them together, Ethan felt the fear Sarah had voiced earlier. Mia was already attached, already incorporating Lena into her mental model of family. If this didn't work out, if he and Lena couldn't navigate their complications, Mia would be heartbroken. But he also saw the way Lena looked at his daughter, with affection and patience and none of the performative interest some adults showed kids. This wasn't Lena pretending to care. This was real. After Mia was in bed, Ethan found Lena on the balcony, wrapped in a blanket despite the warm evening. "Penny, for your thoughts?" he asked, joining her. "I'm thinking about the seeds we planted yesterday, wondering if they'll actually grow or if we were just playing pretend gardening. They'll grow. Mia used magic, remember?" That pulled a small smile from Lena. "She's wonderful, Ethan. You've done an incredible job raising her." "I've done an exhausted job raising her. There's a difference." "No, I mean it. She's kind and curious and completely herself. That doesn't happen by accident." Lena pulled the blanket tighter. "My mother always said kids need stability and routine and structure. But watching you with Mia, you give her something more than that. You give her security in knowing she's loved, no matter what. That's all any parent can do, love them and hope it's enough." "Is it enough?" Lena asked quietly. "Love, I mean. Is it enough to build a life on?" "I don't know, but it's a start." Ethan moved closer. "Lena, I know today was brutal. I know you're questioning everything right now, but can I tell you what I see?" "What?" "I see someone who's been burned and is terrified of fire, but you're still willing to try. Still willing to risk getting hurt again because the alternative, staying closed off forever, is worse." He took her hand. "That's not weakness. That's courage." "It doesn't feel courageous. It feels reckless." "Sometimes those are the same thing." Lena was quiet for a long moment, looking out at the city lights. "My lawyer said Marcus will probably plead out, take a deal rather than go to trial. Which means I won't have to testify again, won't have to keep reliving how thoroughly he deceived me." "That's good news." "Is it? Or is it just me avoiding more difficult processing?" She turned to face him. "I keep wondering if I'm using you as a distraction, if I'm jumping into this relationship because it's easier than dealing with the Marcus fallout." "Are you? I don't think so. But how do I know for sure?" "You don't, not with absolute certainty. But Lena, we can't let fear of making mistakes paralyze us. Sometimes you have to take the risk and see what happens. And if it doesn't work out, if we try this and fail, then we'll handle it with the same honesty and integrity we're bringing to starting it." Ethan squeezed her hand. "I'm not saying there's no risk. There's enormous risk. But the potential reward, actually building something real together, that's worth the risk to me. Is it worth it to you?" Lena studied him in the dim light from the apartment, her expression shifting through emotions too quick to name. Finally, she nodded. "Yes, it's worth the risk." "Then we keep going. One day at a time, being honest about what we're feeling, adjusting as we need to." "One day at a time," she repeated. "I can do that." They stayed on the balcony until the city's late-night energy shifted into the quiet hours before dawn, talking about nothing and everything: work transitions, Mia's upcoming school year, the flowers they'd planted, and whether magic was real enough to make them bloom in impossible colors. When they finally went inside, Ethan checked on Mia one last time before heading to his own room. She was sprawled across the bed in that boneless way only children could manage, Mr. Whiskers clutched tight even in sleep. "She looks so peaceful," Lena said from the doorway. "She always does when sleeping. It's the waking hours that are chaos." Ethan adjusted her blanket. "Lena, about what Sarah said earlier, she's right to be protective. Mia's already getting attached to me, and if this doesn't work out, she'll be hurt." Lena's voice was soft but firm. "I'm not going to pretend that's not a legitimate concern." "So what do we do?" "We're careful. We make sure Mia knows that adults sometimes try relationships that don't work out, and that's okay. We model healthy communication so even if we fail, she learns something valuable. Lena moved closer. And we hope. Hope that we won't fail, that what we're building is strong enough to last. Hope and careful planning, very on brand for both of us. Mock all you want, but it's gotten us this far. Ethan smiled despite the heaviness of the conversation. Fair point. Back in his own room, lying in the darkness of Lena's guest space, Ethan thought about the week ahead, finalizing his transfer to Elena's division, navigating the inevitable office gossip about his relationship with Lena, figuring out whether to move back to his apartment or stay in this strange temporary arrangement that was starting to feel less temporary by the day. His phone lit up with a text from Lena. Thank you for today, for being patient with my spiral, for not running when things got complicated. He typed back, Where would I run to? You're worth the complications. Her response came quickly. I hope I'm proving that true. You already have, he wrote, 4 years worth of evidence. The dots appeared and disappeared several times before her final message came through. Sleep well, Ethan. Tomorrow's a new day. Tomorrow's a new day, he agreed. And lying there in the dark, in an apartment that wasn't his but was starting to feel like home, with a daughter sleeping peacefully down the hall and a woman he'd loved quietly for 4 years finally within reach, Ethan let himself believe that tomorrow might actually be the start of something good. Not perfect, not uncomplicated, but real and honest and worth every risk they were taking. That was enough. That was more than enough. That was everything. 3 weeks later, Ethan stood in Elena Cortez's office, reviewing the final mock-ups for TechVise's new consumer product launch. The transition to her division had been smoother than he'd anticipated. Elena was sharp, direct, and refreshingly uncomplicated compared to the emotional minefield of working directly for Lena. These look solid, Elena said, scrolling through the presentation on her tablet. You've got a good instinct for what resonates with end users. Lena was right about you. She recommended me? Ethan tried to keep his voice neutral. Of course she did, though she was careful to document that I made the final hiring decision independently. Elena smiled knowingly. HR might require disclosure forms, but they can't stop people from talking. Everyone knows you two are together. And that's okay with you? The optics of it? The optics of what? 2 competent professionals who happen to be dating? Ethan, this is a tech company, not a Victorian novel. As long as you're both doing excellent work and maintaining appropriate boundaries, I don't care who you're sleeping with. She paused. You're doing excellent work, right? Because if this relationship tanks your productivity, we'll have a different conversation. It won't, Ethan said firmly. Good. Then let's talk about the launch timeline. After the meeting, Ethan had lunch with David Chen, who'd requested the catch-up to discuss the final resolution of Marcus's case. He took the plea deal, David said, cutting into his sandwich with surgical precision. 7 years for fraud, identity theft, and attempted corporate espionage. Could have been worse, could have been better. Jennifer's divorce was finalized last week. She's moving back to her family in Oregon, trying to rebuild. And Lena? How's she handling it? Professionally, she's fine. The board was satisfied with how she managed the situation. Personally, David shrugged. You'd know better than me. How is she? Ethan considered the question. Over the past 3 weeks, he'd watched Lena navigate the aftermath of her canceled wedding with the same strategic precision she brought to business crises. She'd released a carefully worded statement about discovering fraud and ending the engagement. She'd fielded concerned calls from investors and friends. She'd attended meetings and made decisions and kept TechVise running without missing a beat. But late at night, when it was just the 2 of them on her balcony, she let the facade drop. Admitted she was still processing, still working through what it meant to have been so thoroughly deceived, still learning to trust her own judgment again. She's working through it, Ethan said carefully. It's a process. And you two? The relationship is working out. So far. We're taking it slow. David raised an eyebrow. You're living together. That's not exactly slow. It started as a security precaution. Then it just... Ethan gestured vaguely. We haven't formalized anything. Mia and I still have our apartment. We're just spending most nights at Lena's place. That's called living together, Ethan, whether you formalize it or not. David's expression softened. Look, I've known Lena for 6 years. I've never seen her like this. Relaxed, almost. Happy. Whatever you're doing, keep doing it. After lunch, Ethan picked up Mia from school, finding her in animated conversation with another parent about the upcoming parent-teacher conferences. Mr. Rowe, the teacher, Mrs. Martinez, caught him before they left. I wanted to mention, Mia's been doing wonderful work lately. Her reading comprehension has improved dramatically, and her art projects are very creative. That's great to hear. She's also been talking a lot about someone named Lena. A friend of yours? Ms. Martinez's tone was carefully neutral, but Ethan could hear the unasked question. Lena is someone I'm dating. She's been spending time with Mia and me. Well, whoever she is, she's clearly having a positive impact. Mia seems very happy. Miss Martinez smiled. Just wanted to acknowledge that. Stability at home shows up in the classroom. In the car, Mia chattered about her day, the math quiz she aced, the playground drama involving whose turn it was on the swings, the butterfly they'd found during recess. Ms. Martinez says you've been doing really well, Ethan said. I've been reading the books Lena got me. They're really good. Mia kicked her feet against the car seat. Daddy, can we go to the rooftop garden today? I want to see if our flowers grew. We can check, but baby, you know the flowers take time, right? They won't be blooming yet. Maybe the magic ones will, Mia said with 6-year-old optimism. At the apartment, Lena's apartment, which Ethan was increasingly thinking of as home, they found Lena already there, which was unusual for a Tuesday afternoon. You're home early, Ethan said. Cleared my calendar. I wanted to talk to you about something. Lena looked nervous, which immediately put Ethan on edge. Is everything okay? Everything's fine. Great, actually, but there's something we need to discuss, and I wanted to do it before I lost my nerve. Mia, oblivious to the tension, had already run to her room to drop off her backpack. Ethan moved closer to Lena, searching her face for clues. What's going on? I've been thinking about this living situation, about how it started as temporary and has turned into, Lena gestured around the apartment, into something that feels permanent. But we've never actually talked about what that means. Lena, if you need your space back, that's not what I'm saying. She took a breath. What I'm saying is that I want this to be permanent. I want you and Mia to officially move in, not as a security measure or a temporary arrangement, but as a real decision about building a life together. Ethan felt his heart rate spike. That's a big step. I know, which is why I wanted to be clear about what I'm offering. Lena pulled out her phone, showing him architectural plans. I've been working with a designer. We could convert my office into a proper bedroom for Mia, bigger than the guest room, with space for her things. And the guest room could become your office, somewhere you can work without being in the living room. You've been planning this for 2 weeks. Ever since I realized that when you mentioned going back to your apartment to grab clothes, my first thought was panic at the idea of you leaving. Lena set down her phone. But I wanted to make sure I wasn't just being impulsive or reactive. So I talked to my therapist. Yes, I'm seeing someone. You were right about that. And she helped me understand that what I'm feeling isn't rebound. It's real. Lena, let me finish. I know this is fast. I know we've only been officially together for 3 weeks. But Ethan, we've been building toward this for 4 years, and I don't want to waste more time being cautious when I already know what I want. She moved closer, taking his hands. I want you. I want Mia. I want the chaos of school pickups and bedtime stories and flowers on the rooftop. I want all of it. Ethan's mind was racing. Moving in officially meant giving up his apartment, the security of having a backup plan if things went wrong. It meant fully integrating Mia into this life, making her even more attached to Lena. It meant trusting that what they had was solid enough to build on. What about Mia? He asked. Have you thought about what it means to essentially become her parent? The responsibility, the permanence of that commitment? I've thought about nothing else for 2 weeks. Lena's voice was steady. I know I'm not her mother. I know I can't replace what she lost. But I can be someone who loves her, who shows up for her, who's there for the good days and the hard ones. If you'll let me. It's not about letting you. It's about making sure you understand what you're signing up for. Then tell me, what am I signing up for? Ethan thought about the reality of parenting Mia. The 3 a.m. nightmares, the stubborn refusals to eat vegetables, The tears over playground conflicts. The endless questions, the sticky fingers on expensive furniture. The way a 6-year-old could turn a calm household into controlled chaos in approximately 30 seconds. "You're signing up for mess," he said, "for noise and disruption and having your carefully organized life turned upside down. For putting someone else's needs before your own every single day. For being so tired you can't think straight but having to make important decisions anyway. Keep going. You're signing up for worrying constantly about whether you're doing it right, whether you're messing her up somehow. For having your heart walking around outside your body in the form of a small person who makes terrible choices sometimes. For loving someone so much it physically hurts when they're hurting. And," Lena prompted, "and for moments of pure joy that make all the hard parts worth it. For watching her discover something new and seeing the wonder on her face. For bedtime snuggles and spontaneous hugs and being someone's whole world." Ethan's voice caught. "For getting to be part of raising an incredible human being." Lena was crying now, tears streaming down her face. "That's what I want, all of it, the mess and the joy and the terrifying responsibility. I want to be part of your family, Ethan, if you'll have me." Before Ethan could respond, Mia appeared in the doorway, holding Mr. Whiskers and looking concerned. "Why is Lena crying?" she asked. "Is she sad?" "No, baby. These are happy tears," Ethan said. "Happy tears are confusing," Mia announced, then walked over to Lena and hugged her legs. "It's okay. Daddy gets happy tears sometimes too." Lena laughed through her crying, scooping Mia up. "You're pretty wise for 6 years old." "I'm 6 3/4, Mia corrected. "That's almost 7. "My mistake." Lena looked at Ethan over Mia's head, her expression hopeful and vulnerable. "So what do you think? About us all living here together officially?" "I think—" Ethan stopped, looking at his daughter in Lena's arms, at the apartment that had started to feel like home, at the life they were building together. "I think Mia should have a say in this decision." Mia's eyes went wide. "Really? I get to decide?" "You get to help decide," Ethan clarified. "This would be your home too. You should have an opinion." "Can I have the big bedroom with the windows?" Mia asked immediately. "That's the one I was thinking for you," Lena said. "We could paint it any color you want and get new furniture, make it really yours." "And we'd live here forever?" "As long as you want to," Lena said carefully. "This would be your home, Mia, a real home, not just visiting." Mia looked at Ethan. "Would you be happy here, Daddy?" The question hit Ethan hard. His daughter thinking about his happiness even at 6 years old. He knelt down so he was at her eye level. "I'd be very happy here, baby, if it's what you want too." "And we could plant more flowers on the roof?" "All the flowers you want." "And Lena would read bedtime stories sometimes?" "If she wants to," Ethan said. "I'd love to," Lena added. Mia considered this with the seriousness of a much older person. Then she nodded decisively. "Okay, we can live here. But Daddy, you have to promise something." "What's that?" "Promise that even if we live here, we're still a family. You, me, and Lena. A real family." Ethan's throat tightened. "I promise, sweetheart. We're a family." "Good." Satisfied, Mia wiggled down from Lena's arms. "Can I go tell Mr. Whiskers about my new room?" "Go ahead, baby." After Mia left, Ethan stood and pulled Lena into his arms. She came willingly, melting against him in a way that felt like coming home. "She's pretty smart," Lena said against his chest. "Scary smart. Gets it from her dad." "Modest, too." Lena pulled back to look at him. "So is that a yes? You'll move in officially?" "On one condition." "Name it." "We do this right. Tell Sarah in person, explain to Mia exactly what this means, make sure everyone's on the same page." Ethan cupped her face. "And we keep communicating. When things get hard, and they will get hard, we talk about it instead of retreating into our separate corners." "I can do that. I'm already doing that, actually. Therapy is teaching me about using my words instead of shutting down." "How's that going?" "It's terrifying and necessary in equal measure," Lena smiled. "But I'm learning. Learning that vulnerability isn't weakness, that asking for help isn't failure, that being imperfect is actually human. Those are pretty big lessons." "I have a good teacher." She kissed him softly. "You've been showing me how to be human for 4 years. I'm finally starting to pay attention. The next few weeks were a blur of logistics and emotions. Ethan gave notice on his apartment, carefully packing up the life he'd built as a single father. Sarah helped, offering commentary and occasional reality checks. "You're really doing this," she said, wrapping picture frames in newspaper. "Moving in with Lena Hart." "I really am." "And you're happy? Not just caught up in the romance of it all?" "I'm terrified and happy in equal measure." Ethan taped a box shut. "But yeah, I'm happy, happier than I've been in years." Sarah studied him. "You love her, like really love her, not just infatuation." "I really love her." "Does she know?" "I haven't said the words yet. Feels too soon given everything." "Ethan, you've been in love with her for 4 years. The only thing that's too soon is how long you waited to do something about it." Sarah handed him another box. "Tell her. Before you move in. Before you merge your whole life with hers. Make sure she knows what she's getting." That night, after Mia was asleep in what was soon to be officially her room, Ethan found Lena on the balcony. She was looking at the city lights, wrapped in the blanket she always used out here. "Can I join you?" he asked. "Always." He sat beside her, close enough to share warmth. They'd spent so many evenings like this over the past month, talking about everything and nothing, learning each other's patterns and preferences. "Sarah thinks I should tell you something," Ethan said. "What's that?" "That I love you, that I've been in love with you for years, probably since that investor meeting where you shut down that condescending CEO who implied women couldn't understand technical specs." Lena turned to look at him, her expression unreadable. "I know it's fast," Ethan continued. "I know we've only been officially together for a month, but Sarah's right. I've felt this for years. I just couldn't say it before because of all the professional complications. But now," he took her hand, "now I can say it. I love you, Lena. Not the CEO version, not the polished professional persona. I love you, the person who makes terrible puns when she's tired, who cries at animated movies, who's learning to be vulnerable even though it terrifies you." "Ethan, you don't have to say it back. I'm not telling you because I need to hear it. I'm telling you because you deserve to know. You deserve to know that what I feel is real and solid and not going away." Lena was crying again, those tears that came more easily now than they had a month ago. "You're wrong about one thing." "What's that?" "I do need to say it back, because I love you too." She laughed through her tears. "I love how you make me want to be better. I love how you see the best in people, including me. I love how you love Mia with your whole heart. I love the terrible puns. They're actually growing on me. I love all of it." Ethan kissed her then, soft and sweet and full of promise. When they pulled apart, Lena was smiling. "We're really doing this," she said, "building a life together." "We really are. I'm still scared sometimes. Scared I'll mess it up. Scared I'm not cut out for this." "Me too, but we're scared together, so that's something." On moving day, Mia directed the placement of furniture in her new room with the authority of a general commanding troops. The walls were painted her chosen color, a soft purple she called princess color, and new furniture had been assembled according to her very specific vision. "The bed goes here," she instructed the movers, "so I can see out this window when I wake up. And the bookshelf there, so the books get morning sun because books like sun." "Do they?" Lena asked, trying not to smile. "Obviously. Everyone knows that." By evening, most of the boxes were unpacked and the apartment had transformed from Lena's carefully curated space into something messier and more alive. Mia's artwork hung on the refrigerator next to shopping lists. Family photos competed for space with Lena's design awards. Ethan's coffee maker sat beside Lena's fancy espresso machine in a compromise neither of them had planned, but both had accepted. They ordered pizza for dinner, eating it on the floor of the living room because Mia insisted it was more fun that way. Sarah joined them, bringing wine for the adults and apple juice for Mia. "This is nice," Sarah said, looking around. "Chaotic, but nice." "That's basically our motto now," Lena said. "Chaotic, but nice." "Better than perfect, but miserable," Ethan added. After Sarah left and Mia was in bed, Ethan and Lena stood in the doorway of what was now officially Mia's room, watching her sleep. "Thank you," Ethan said quietly. "For what?" "For taking a chance on us. On all of this." He gestured at the room, at the life they were building. I know it's not what you planned. Plans are overrated. Lena leaned against him. This is better than anything I could have planned. Messier, scarier, but infinitely better. 2 months later, Ethan sat in the audience at Mia's school assembly, Lena beside him. They'd carefully navigated the social dynamics of parent events, making sure everyone knew Lena wasn't trying to replace Mia's mother, just be another adult who cared about her. Mia was receiving an award for creative writing, and she bounced up to the stage with her usual enthusiasm. The piece she'd written was about a princess who lived in a castle in the sky and learned that real magic came from being brave enough to let people into your heart. I wonder where she got that idea, Lena whispered. Can't imagine, Ethan whispered back. After the assembly, Mia ran over with her ribbon, grinning. Did you see? I won. We saw, sweetheart. We're so proud of you, Ethan said. Can we hang it on the refrigerator? Absolutely, Lena said. Right next to your art project from last week. Walking to the car, Mia between them holding both their hands, Ethan felt a surge of gratitude so strong it almost knocked him over. 6 months ago, his life had been predictable and limited. Now it was complicated and messy and fuller than he'd ever imagined possible. Daddy, can we get ice cream to celebrate? Mia asked. It's Tuesday afternoon. You haven't even had dinner yet. But I won a ribbon. That's special. Ethan looked at Lena, who shrugged. I mean, she's not wrong. Ribbons are special. You're supposed to be the responsible one, Ethan protested. I'm learning flexibility. Ice cream before dinner won't kill her. So they got ice cream, sitting at the same shop they'd visited that first weekend together. Mia chattered about her award while getting strawberry ice cream on her shirt, and Lena laughed instead of worrying about the mess. And Ethan thought, this is what happiness looks like. That evening, after Mia was asleep and they were cleaning up the kitchen together, Lena's phone rang. David Chen calling with news about Marcus's case. He's officially been sentenced, David said. 7 years, no early parole. It's done, Lena. You can move on. After the call, Lena was quiet for a long time. Ethan gave her space, finishing the dishes while she processed. You okay? He asked finally. I'm okay, better than okay, actually. She dried her hands on a towel. For months, I kept waiting to feel closure about Marcus. Kept thinking there'd be some moment where I'd feel definitively over it. But that's not how it works, is it? Not usually, no. The closure didn't come from his sentencing or the investigation being over. It came from building something new, something real. She moved into his arms. It came from this, from you and Mia and the life we're creating. I love you, Ethan said, because he could now. Because it was true, and he never wanted her to doubt it. I love you too, so much that sometimes it scares me. Good scared or bad scared? Good scared. The kind that means it matters. She pulled back to look at him. Thank you for being patient with me, for not running when things got complicated. Where would I run to? This is home. 3 months after that, on an unremarkable Thursday evening, Lena came home from work to find the apartment transformed. Ethan had cooked dinner, actual cooking, not takeout, and the table was set with candles. Mia was practically vibrating with excitement. What's all this? Lena asked, setting down her briefcase. We wanted to do something special, Ethan said. To celebrate. Celebrate what? 1 year since the wedding that didn't happen. He moved closer, taking her hands. 1 year since you were brave enough to call it off and choose honesty over comfort. I wanted to mark that. Lena's eyes filled with tears. You're celebrating my canceled wedding? I'm celebrating the day you chose truth, the day everything changed. He glanced at Mia, who was watching with wide eyes. We both wanted to celebrate that. Dinner was chaotic and perfect. Mia spilled her milk, the chicken was slightly overdone, and the conversation ranged from work gossip to playground politics. Everything Lena's life had been missing before. After Mia was in bed, Ethan led Lena to the rooftop garden. The flowers they'd planted that first weekend had bloomed, not in magic colors, but in ordinary, beautiful pink and yellow. They grew, Lena said, delighted. Mia checks on them every week. She's very invested in their success. They stood among the flowers, the city spread out below them, and Lena thought about how much had changed in a year, how she'd gone from almost marrying the wrong person to building a life with the right one, how she'd learned that vulnerability wasn't weakness and that love didn't require perfection. I have something for you, Ethan said, pulling a small box from his pocket. Lena's heart stopped. Ethan, it's not what you think. Open it. Inside was a key, not to the apartment, which Ethan already had, but something older and more worn. It's the key to my old apartment, he explained. The one I gave up to move in here. I was going to throw it away, but then I thought, this key represents the life I built as a single father. The years of figuring it out alone, of being everything Mia needed. And I wanted you to have it. I don't understand. That life, that independence, I'm not giving it up out of necessity or fear or because I can't manage on my own. I'm choosing this life with you because it's better. Because being with you makes me better. He closed her fingers around the key. So keep this. Keep it as a reminder that I choose you every day. Not because I have to, but because I want to. Lena was full on crying now, holding the key like it was something precious. That's the most romantic thing anyone's ever given me. Better than a canceled wedding? So much better. She kissed him, soft and deep and full of promise. When they pulled apart, she said, I have something for you too. Well, something for all of us. She pulled up photos on her phone, architectural plans for a house. Not an apartment, but an actual house with a yard and multiple bedrooms. I've been looking at properties, she said. Nothing huge, nothing showy, just a real home for our family, with space for Mia to play, for you to have a proper office, for us to grow into. Lena, that's too fast? Too much? Too presumptuous? Perfect, Ethan said. It's perfect. Really? Because I can slow down, I know I have a tendency to jump ahead and plan everything. He kissed her quiet. It's perfect because it's you. Because you're thinking about our future, about building something permanent. I love it. There's one more thing. Lena pulled up another photo, a backyard with space for a garden. I was thinking we could have an actual garden. Not just rooftop pots, but real earth. Let Mia plant her magic flowers and see what grows. Looking at the photos, at the future Lena was envisioning for them, Ethan felt his heart expand with possibility. A year ago, he'd been preparing to watch the woman he loved marry someone else. Now he was standing in a rooftop garden, planning a future he'd never dared to imagine. When can we start looking? He asked. This weekend, if you're free. I'm free. We're free. He pulled her close. For the record, this is better than any wedding I've ever been to. Even the one that didn't happen? Especially that one. That one gave me you. They stayed on the roof until the sky shifted from purple to black, talking about houses and gardens and the life they were building. Below them, the city hummed with possibility. Above them, stars emerged one by one, small points of light in the vast darkness. When they finally went inside, they found Mia had left a drawing on the kitchen counter. It showed 3 figures standing in a garden surrounded by flowers in impossible colors. At the top, in her careful 6-year-old handwriting, Our family. Lena picked it up, her hands gentle. She drew us as a family. That's what we are, Ethan said simply. A year ago, I thought I knew what family looked like, what it was supposed to be. Lena studied the drawing. But this, the 3 of us, the mess and the love and the choosing each other every day, this is better than anything I imagined. Magic flowers and all? Magic flowers and all. They hung the drawing on the refrigerator where it joined the growing collection of Mia's art and family photos and shopping lists and all the beautiful ordinary chaos of their shared life. And later, lying in bed with Ethan's arms around her and the sound of Mia's soft breathing from down the hall, Lena thought about the journey that had brought her here. The canceled wedding that felt like failure but turned out to be freedom. The risk of loving someone when everything felt uncertain. The choice to be vulnerable even when it terrified her. She'd spent so long building walls, protecting herself, controlling every variable. And then Ethan had walked into her life, first as an assistant, then as a friend, finally as the person who made her want to tear down those walls and risk everything. It hadn't been easy. There had been fears and doubts and moments of panic. There had been complicated conversations and difficult decisions and the terrifying leap of faith that choosing love required. But lying here now, in a home filled with love and laughter and the sweet chaos of family, Lena knew with absolute certainty that every risk had been worth it. She'd stood in a bridal suite a year ago, wearing a dress that cost a fortune, preparing to marry the wrong person for the right reasons. And Ethan had given her the truth, painful and necessary, that had freed her to find something real. Not the fairy tale she'd been chasing, not the perfect wedding or the strategic partnership or the relationship that looked good on paper, but something better, something honest and messy and utterly, completely real. A family built on truth instead of illusion. A love that grew in ordinary moments instead of grand gestures. A life that wasn't perfect, but was perfectly theirs. "Thank you," she whispered into the darkness. "For what?" Ethan murmured, half asleep. "For telling me the truth that day. For risking everything to protect me. For choosing me." "Always," he said, pulling her closer. "I'll always choose you." And Lena, who'd spent her whole life afraid of letting go of control, finally understood what it meant to trust. To lean on someone and know they'd be there. To build something together instead of trying to manage everything alone. The canceled wedding had felt like an ending. But it was really a beginning, the start of everything that mattered. Outside, the city sparkled with possibility. In Mia's room, magic flowers bloomed in crayon colors. And in the quiet darkness of their bedroom, two people who'd found each other despite all the reasons it should have been impossible held on to the life they'd chosen. Together. Honest. Real. Home.